Well, it's a nice Sunday afternoon and you're shopping at your regular grocery store when you stumble upon a bloated package in the fresh produce aisle. You check the product information. It seems well within its expiration date. Then why the unusual shape, you may wonder? The answer is not always straightforward. For some types of fresh products, such as meat, fish, or seafood, sometimes even salads and cheese, scientists came up with something called MAP, or Modified Atmosphere Packaging, to ensure that these types of products with a relatively short shelf life stay fresh for as long as possible. A combination of gases is introduced in the packaging. It happens even before the product reaches your local grocery store. A French professor at the Montpellier School of Pharmacy stumbled upon this method after he noticed that fruits tend to stay fresh for longer periods of time in low-oxygen storage conditions. The types of gases in MAP's packaging can vary from product to product, but the main idea is to replace or reduce the content of oxygen. It's generally replaced with either nitrogen or carbon dioxide. Keep in mind that just because a bloated bag of salad is within its expiration date, it doesn't mean it's always safe to eat. The gases inside the bag may very well be there for their own purpose, but they can also be a sign that the product is spoiled. That's why the best course of action when shopping would be to check if the product is not expired. If it's still within the date, check for any unusual odors or damage to the packaging. If something seems off, it's best not to risk it. You can reach out to any of the store staff if you have any questions or concerns. Most supermarkets these days have a layout which allows for a logical shopping order, like buying non-perishable items first, then adding refrigerated or frozen products. Fruits and vegetables should come last since you won't want them at the bottom of your shopping cart. Nobody likes a squished tomato. While I'm on the subject of fruits and veggies, try to get them earlier in the morning if possible. Veggies that have been sitting out all day may lose some of their shape and texture, while others may be a bit wilted away. Quick tip on waste management: never buy more produce than you intend to use in a week. Most fruits and vegetables don't even last that long, so it's best not to give in to cravings. Shopping on a full stomach might help with that as well, just as much as going shopping with a pre-made list of things you need to buy. Thoroughly inspecting the package of every product might save you some hustle later as well. Refrigerated products need to feel cold to the touch, whilst frozen ones need to be solid and with no sign of leakage. When you get home, make sure you refrigerate all the necessary items as soon as possible. Generally, they shouldn't be out of the refrigerator for more than 2 hours. Otherwise, their quality won't stay the same. Buying potted herbs from the grocery store may not be the first thing on your list, but it's surely something to consider. Not only are they available for a fraction of the cost, but they're also easy to grow and take care of. Just picture a nice herb garden right there on your balcony or even in the kitchen. Wouldn't that be nice? You'll always have fresh basil to top a mouth-watering pasta dish. Since you're still at the grocery store, pick up some coffee filters while you're at it. You may not have a machine at home that actually uses filters, but there are a lot more things you can use them for around the house. They can be used for straining liquids, safely stacking delicate china in your cupboards, or even polishing windows, or shoes for that matter. If your favorite fruits and vegetables are on sale, but buying large quantities would mean they go to waste, consider freezing them. You can stock up on items for smoothies, especially for the colder season when there are limited options for fresh fruits. And don't just grab the first thing on the shelf, especially if it's likely to go bad quickly. Stores restock their produce following a first-in, first-out layout, so the items at the back of the shelf will always be a tad bit fresher. The same goes for tea if you prefer it to coffee. Switch to buying loose-leaf tea, and you'll not only reduce the costs, you'll also be able to make your own homemade tea blends. Loose-leaf tea also has a stronger flavor than tea sold in tea bags. As for the other household stuff, stock up on items such as light bulbs, paper towels, or batteries. Chances are you'll always be needing at least one of these items, so it's best to buy them in larger quantities when on sale. They never go to waste, and let's face it, it's always annoying when you run out of batteries at home and your TV remote stops working. Hey, tell me about it. Try to reduce the number of times you go to the grocery store to buy just one item. It's inefficient, and most likely, you'll end up buying things that you don't actually need. That shopping list starts to make a lot more sense now, doesn't it? Another list worth making, the one containing whatever you have in the fridge. Try to create such a list at least twice a week. Meal planning for at least a week in advance will also help you reduce impulse buying. If you already know what you'll want for dinner on Wednesday, why add anything else to the cart if it's unnecessary? At the same time, start getting creative with your leftovers. There's no need for them to go to waste when you can mix and match or add some additional herbs and flavors to spice them up. Store leftovers in transparent containers for added visibility, and don't be afraid to set out a leftover day during the week. It's also nice to look at them as ingredients rather than leftovers. Use extra leftover pasta or steamed vegetables for a frittata or an omelet. Blend together cooked vegetables with some tomatoes to create a pasta sauce. Put together some wraps for the next day's lunch with anything from leftover cooked rice to meat and vegetables. Or, if you're really looking for the easiest method to save leftovers, you can always turn them into soup. Last night's vegetable side dish can turn into a wholesome lunch if you simply add a can of broth and blend it all together. Even a 2-day-old loaf of bread can be salvaged if you cut it diagonally, sprinkle the slices with some herbs and olive oil, and pop them in the oven for a couple of minutes. You'll then have yourself some nice homemade croutons for that previously mentioned soup. A little label know-how never hurt anyone either. Be on the lookout for ingredients you've never heard of or those you can't pronounce. An item that usually has more than 5 ingredients listed on the packaging should be avoided. Even the way you carry your groceries in the supermarket can affect how and what you buy. If you prefer baskets to shopping carts, you're more prone to impulse searches. That's what a study published by the Journal of Marketing Research claims. It happens due to the effort you put in actually carrying the items around. Choosing a shopping cart will most likely make you comfortable enough to browse through enough products and read labels thoroughly. When your grocery list is not too big, go for the self-checkout aisle if available. Studies have shown that impulse purchases are lowered by up to 32% if you actually scan your own items on the way out. That's because the regular checkout line is specially designed to keep you from letting go of any items you might have reconsidered buying. There's literally nowhere you can put down your undesired products outside of your grocery cart, and if there's anyone else waiting in line behind you, good luck sliding out. The food arrangement on the shelves can also pose a threat to both your budget and your habits. Since people are more inclined to buy the items they see first, the most expensive products are placed at eye level, and the budget options are placed on the top and bottom shelves. Take your time and scan your aisles of interest. You'll be surprised to see that most items placed on higher or lower shelves are often not only more cost-effective, but also less packed with additives or artificial flavoring. Hey, be careful. It's a jungle in there. So, do you like tea? Well, so do I. Now, we'll investigate the ways to make the perfect cup of tea. This drink is the second most widely consumed beverage, so it deserves to be made properly. Oh, and if you're wondering, the first place is of course taken by hot chocolate. Water. Yeah, water. Tea has been in our lives for centuries. It's not shocking to see how popular it is now. This brewed drink has some amazing health benefits, and that's the second reason why it's been so prevalent in our lives throughout history. Numerous modern studies and thousands of years of anecdotal evidence reveal that antioxidant-rich tea has many health benefits. Okay, but where does it come from? Legends say that the story of tea begins in China. According to these legends, around 2737 BCE, a Chinese emperor was sitting near a tree. Then his servant brought him boiled drinking water. Before the emperor took a sip, some leaves from the tree fell into his cup. He realized that the color of his water had changed. He drank the beverage and liked the aroma, and then he tried to experiment with the leaves that accidentally created the drink. There are different variants of this legend revolving around the emperor, but in reality, historians know that the earliest record of people drinking tea in China dates back to the Shang dynasty, and it was first consumed as a medicinal drink, not as a cup of joy. Now, let's move on to the not-to-do list. You might be ruining your tea if your water is too hot. When your kettle whistles, you might think that the water is ready. That's right, it has boiled, but the temperature is too high for the delicate tea leaves. When you pour too hot water onto the leaves, what you get is a bitter taste. With too hot water, you also say goodbye to the healthy compounds in the leaves, such as catechins. The water should be just under a rolling boil. When you start spotting small bubbles in the kettle, that's the temperature you need. I wish there was one temperature that would work for every tea, but there isn't. It's up to you to discover the best water temperature for your type of tea. Because there are so many teas in the world that I can't mention the best temps for all of them. But I'll give you a hint. Green tea should be brewed between 180 and 185 degrees Fahrenheit, while the water for black tea should be 206 degrees. I should also say that if the water is too cold, then it won't be able to extract all the necessary components of your tea. Now, the water temperature is important, as well as its quality. You need high-quality water. Filtered water will do. If you use tap water, it may contain stuff like chlorine, fluoride, and other minerals. These compounds can ruin the flavor of your tea. Another way of getting the best tea lies in the correct steeping method. Now, some people leave the tea to steep and, in the meantime, start doing something else. In most cases, they end up forgetting about the tea. Come back, come back! This would be the sentence you would hear from your tea if only it could talk. The time needed for steeping depends on the type of leaves. Yet, in general, teas should not steep for longer than 5 minutes. For example, green tea needs 3 minutes, and black tea needs 3 to 5 minutes. If you wait any longer, you'll get a bitter drink because your tea will release biomolecules called tannins. The duration of steeping depends on the size of the leaves, too. A small leaf needs 1.5 to 2 minutes, a medium-sized leaf 2 to 3 minutes, and a whole leaf needs 3 to 5 minutes. Too long or not long enough? This is a sensitive issue. The chemicals in your tea are released gradually as soon as the steeping process begins. Let's say you pour some water onto the leaves. The first magical thing that appears is aroma and flavor. Then the healthy chemicals start their work. Caffeine is also released at this stage. Lastly, the heavier tannins come to the stage. If you don't steep your tea long enough and intervene with the steeping process, your tea may lack some beneficial compounds. Now, what is the difference between using tea bags and loose leaves? Well, tea bags are very convenient, but loose leaves are a better option if you want to get all the benefits of your tea. Regular tea bags you get from the supermarket come with leftover broken tea leaves, known as dust and fanning. I get you, time is precious. If you have to go for standard tea bags, opt for pyramid-shaped ones instead of rectangular ones. Pyramid sachet packs are better for brewing. Flat bags are the least favorable option. Since they contain bleached paper, some chemicals from the paper can spoil the aroma of your tea. Now, this one got me to thinking. Is it true that we should use the same tea bag twice? This is a myth if the bag contains some high-quality tea. In fact, you can brew such tea for a second or even a third time. The rule is simple. Remove the tea leaves from the cup and let them drip dry. You shouldn't let your tea leaves steep once they've been soaked. The reason is again related to keeping the flavor bitter-free. Note that every time you steep a tea bag, you extract more caffeine. And what if we talk about the issue of those extra ingredients added to the tea? Yes, sugar. Adding honey or sugar to your tea doesn't mean that all the health benefits of this drink disappear. Yet, you increase the number of calories you get. According to one study, 33% of tea drinkers consume tea with such additives. Now, what's another popular thing people add to their tea besides sugar? Here's a hint. This way of drinking tea is very popular in Great Britain. Yes, it's milk. The amount of milk is a serious question, too. The milk-to-tea ratio should be 1/4 or less for 1 cup. You might not believe me, but the order in which you add the liquids is also important. Most people agree that adding milk after steeping your tea makes the drink tastier. First, you brew the tea, then you pour it into your cup and add milk. Next, the teapot. Apparently, there's a reason why people have been using teapots for centuries. These elegant containers help your drink stay warm for longer. Let's assume you pour yourself some tea into a big mug. there's a high chance that it'll get cold before you finish drinking it. To fix this problem, you can use a teapot. This way, you can simply pour some tea into your cup and then repeat the process once you finish it. It'll have an ideal drinking temperature. Now, every region has different types of teas, brewing equipment, and leaves. For instance, in Turkey, people use tulip-shaped tea glasses when they drink tea. Turkey is the largest consumer of tea per capita. They seem to enjoy their tea as much as the traditional tea glasses. Also, they sometimes add a tiny piece of lemon to a cup of black tea as an additional ingredient. And if you go to Morocco, you'll be served some hot mint tea, also known as touré. It's typically poured into tall glasses. If you go to China, the place that introduced this amazing beverage to the whole world, you will see hundreds of different types of tea, from oolong to jasmine. Japan is known for matcha tea and its famous tea houses. If you enter a tea house there, you'll be surprised to learn that matcha is prepared in the same way as it was in the 12th century. What about India? There, the national drink is chai. Now you know how to make your tea taste amazing. So, what type of tea is your favorite? Comment below. Hey, you ready for a shock? The fruit you call a banana has nothing to do with the real deal. Most wild bananas have large seeds and very little pulp. A lot of them aren't even edible. But when you eat a banana, you can barely spot those seeds. It's because most of us these days are chomping down on clones of the Cavendish variety. Yes, there are different species of bananas, as in more than 1,000. That special type was chosen because it's seedless. Plus, it lasts longer. No store wants to waste money on trying to sell food with a short shelf life. Oh yeah, and bananas are technically berries. Same goes for watermelons. It's because their seeds are inside the flesh, which makes strawberries and raspberries not true berries. By definition, they're fruits since the seeds are on the outside. But an orange has its seeds on the inside like a berry too. That's right, it's another case of mistaken identity. Oranges are also a human invention, not a product of nature. They were created as a hybrid from the pomelo and mandarin. And if you see a green orange, it doesn't mean it's sour and unripe. It's just got its sunscreen on. When the weather's too hot for their liking, oranges produce more of the green pigment chlorophyll to protect themselves from sunburn. But if you have a green banana you want to turn yellow faster, just throw it into a plastic bag with an apple or tomato. These two give off ethylene gas, which helps other fruits ripen. Fun fact: unripe fruit tastes so yucky for a reason. It's because the seeds aren't done growing yet. In the wild, any fruit's goal is to be gobbled up by animals because they help spread the seeds. When the seeds are finally ready, the fruit ripens, gets a new yummy taste, and the animals start munching. Limes, lemons, and oranges are obviously relatives. Bananas have their family too, lilies and orchids. If you ever look at banana leaves and compare them with those flowers, you'll see they're cousins. By the way, peaches and nectarines are basically the same fruit. It all comes down to one little gene that decides whether the peel will be smooth or fuzzy. Apples are also roses, just like pears, cherries, and almonds. Next time you show up on a date, bring a bag of apples and share this fact. Ooh, how romantic! Oddly enough, if you make a salad from red, orange, and yellow bell peppers, you'll get a dish made of 3 entirely different vegetables. They're all unique plants with their own unique seeds. You see a banana, you think of a warm, tropical climate. But they can easily grow in Iceland. It's the world's most northern producer of the fruit, berry. Funny thing about Iceland, they grow a lot of tropical fruits up there. The cold country pulls it off thanks to the geothermal underground heat. That's the same thing powering their epic volcanoes and geysers. Sorry, but calorie-negative veggies are a myth. Some people claim that your body uses more energies to break down, say, lettuce and celery than those foods give. They're still extremely low-cal, about 5 to 10 calories a serving, but your body only burns half a calorie to digest them. Kiwi fruits in the wild look like big, hairy grapes, but many people instead thought it resembles that tiny little kiwi bird. So they named this fruit after it and not vice versa. Technically renamed, kiwi was originally called Chinese gooseberry. Up for some sushi? If you grabbed wasabi at the grocery store, there's a 99% chance you didn't get the real thing. True wasabi is hard to make, so it's usually replaced with horseradish, some extra flavorings, and colorants, like green. The ketchup we eat today has nothing to do with the original recipe. The origins go back to the 17th century, when the Chinese made a sauce out of pickled fish and spices. Later, the British version featured mushrooms, shallots, and even walnuts. The word ketchup changed its name and was used for any dark-colored sauce. The first carrots were completely different too. The carrot we're used to is thick and orange. They used to be thin and purple. Carrots are tougher than any other vegetable. It's because they can survive a winter in the ground and not wither. Also, if you thought baby carrots are a totally different sort, not true. They are often just unattractive, regular-sized carrots trimmed down to bite size. They'd be too hard to sell the way they are, but they look appetizing cut up. Watermelons and tomatoes are mostly water, and you can tell while eating them. But potatoes are too, about 80%. So, if you wanted to, you could squeeze a potato and have a glass of its juice. I think I'd rather fry them. Carrots are over 80% water, and apples are about 25% air. That's why they float and you can bob for them. So when you spend $10 on apples, $2.50 of that is going toward nothing. And here you were always worried about paying for air in chip bags. Apples taste better when they're sliced because they're exposed to oxygen. It activates a special enzyme that makes the fruit ripen and turn brown. The same happens when you hit an apple. The oxygen gets inside through tiny cracks, and it'll be sweeter. Get this. A scientist in Germany figured out how to turn peanut butter into diamonds. Peanut butter has a lot of carbon in it. To turn it into a diamond, all you do is put it under extreme high pressure. Yeah, good luck with that. If you ever order a Welsh rabbit in the UK, don't expect a meat dish. It's actually some crispy bread with a cheesy sauce poured on it. Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, Worcestershire sauce was invented by accident. 2 English chemists tried to make an Indian fish sauce. The batch turned out too strong to be edible, so they put it in the basement. They forgot about it for a couple of years, and it fermented in that time. When they remembered about it, they thought, hey, why not give it a try? And it tastes much better. And yes, your favorite steak sauce is still made with fish today. Those instant noodles you buy when the budget's tight were originally a luxury product. The main idea was to create something with a long shelf life. After several unsuccessful attempts, the inventor finally got it. The noodles had to be steamed, dried, deep-fried, and then seasoned. This complicated production made them cost much more than the fresh noodles everyone was used to. Now, let's travel back in time to the 1700s. As the story goes, a man named John Montague really liked card games, as in, he couldn't even be bothered to take a break for lunch. So he just asked for some meat tucked between 2 slices of bread. That way, he could eat it while playing and keep the cards clean and grease-free. Montague was the 4th Earl of Sandwich, the town in England, and he's credited for inventing the hush puppy. Nah, you're right, the sandwich. Another famous food legend, they say potato chips also came about by chance. In 1853, a customer was dining at a restaurant where French fries were one of the specials. This guest wasn't satisfied with those fries and complained they were too thick. When the chef cooked thinner fries, the picky customer complained yet again. The chef got so annoyed that he just cut a potato into paper-thin slices and deep-fried them. Much to his surprise, the finicky eater loved the final dish. And cheese puffs started out as trash. Back in the 1930s, Edward Wilson noticed some oozing corn in one of the machines at a factory that made food for animals. Wilson was puzzled by the ribbons, so he took them home and tried to season them. He also noticed the puffy corn hardened when exposed to air. The experiment was a success, and it developed into a world-famous snack. There are different stories behind how chocolate chip cookies were invented. One claims that a lady ran out of baker's chocolate and decided to replace it with some basic broken-up semi-sweet chocolate. She thought they'd just melt evenly into the batter. But those chips stayed right where they were, and what a yummy mistake! Hey, I've never met a cookie I didn't like.
A beverage as black as ink, useful against numerous health conditions. It's made of water and the fruit from a bush called bunu. You must have guessed. It's a description of coffee. This is how coffee was described by a German physician who had a 10-year trip to the Near East back in the 16th century. Today, you don't have to venture into the unknown to get a cup of precious liquid. You can easily make it at home or visit the closest coffee shop. As of 2023, in the US alone, there are over 72,000 coffee shops. Imagine the whole world. When you think of coffee, what's the first country that comes to your mind? Italy? Maybe France? But here's the kicker. Actually, Finland is the coffeeest country in the world. Just picture it. An adult Finn consumes up to 27.5 pounds of coffee per year, while an American only consumes about 11 pounds. Norway proudly takes second place, and Denmark closes the top 3. Italy and France aren't even in the top 10. And by the way, each day, people on our planet drink approximately 1.6 billion cups of coffee. If you're planning to hit some longevity records, coffee may come in handy. There's been research conducted by Harvard Health Publishing stating that those who drink 3 to 4 cups of coffee per day are more likely to have a longer lifespan. Sounds cool, but it's probably not the best option. One of the world's most famous supercentenarians, Jeanne Calment, acknowledged that she would drink coffee with milk for breakfast. And she lived an incredibly long life of 122 years. Not only do people prove that coffee helps with longevity, but cats can also prove it. This is Cream Puff from Texas. It's the cat that lived for 38 years. Jake Perry, Cream Puff's owner, shared some details about his pet's diet. Cream Puff would typically eat dry cat food, eggs, turkey bacon. Alright, nothing special here. But the cat was a big fan of coffee too. Cream Puff preferred coffee with cream. Now, here's a question for you. What color is your coffee mug? Thing is, it matters a lot what you drink from. There are certain colors, for example, lead-based glaze that can release toxic substances in your drink. Mugs glazed with red and orange are most likely to contain lead. So, if you want to play it safe, opt for mugs made of glass, ceramic, or stainless steel. Also, mugs made of plastic or aluminum aren't safe either, as they may release unwanted substances, just like glazed mugs. But the color matters for psychological reasons too. There's been an experiment concerning coffee perception based on the mug color. So, it turns out that if we drink coffee from a white mug, it may seem less sweet than if we drink it from a blue or transparent one. Coffee even played an important role in major sports events. Back in 1932, Brazilian athletes couldn't afford a trip to LA to participate in the Olympic Games. However, a solution was found. The authorities loaded the athletes onto a ship full of coffee. That coffee was sold on the way, so it helped finance their trip. Coffee is also the key to a happy family life, or at least it used to be. In the 15th century, in Mesopotamia, coffee was pretty important when it came to marriage. Men would choose their future wives based on how well they could make coffee. Luckily, we have coffee machines for that today, so we choose partners based on their personalities. And in Constantinople, a wife could file for divorce in case her hubby did not provide her with enough coffee. According to industry standards, you need around 56 coffee beans to make a single shot of coffee. Beethoven, yes, I'm talking about one of the main hitmakers of all time, would count 60 beans precisely to brew his morning coffee. I guess it was more of a ritual than a particular recipe. Hey, do you have any rituals for your morning, Joe? Another hitmaker, Johann Sebastian Bach, even dedicated a cantata to coffee, which he called Coffee Cantata. Pretty straightforward, huh? The cantata tells about coffee dependence. Even though black coffee is supposedly the most common type out there, pretty much everyone tried cappuccino at least once. By the way, it got its name because of the final color the drink has. It's a soft brownish shade, very much similar to the color of the capuchin robe. Plus, the robe has a hood, and the word hood translates to Italian as cappuccio. Now the name finally makes sense. Those who don't like to spend time brewing coffee often opt for the instant variety. Let's say happy birthday to instant coffee. It's soon to turn 116 years old. It was invented in 1907, and up until the 1970s, many consumers would criticize it for having an inferior taste. However, in the 1970s, the technology changed, and the manufacturers claimed it tasted almost like freshly brewed coffee. Also, instant coffee created another popular thing: coffee vending machines. The first prototype was invented back in 1947, and they've been with us ever since the 1950s. There are also some products you don't really want to combine coffee with. Number 1. Meat. The logic is simple. Coffee can absorb zinc in the body. Therefore, it's not the best choice to have coffee after grabbing something that contains zinc. I'm talking about red meat, oysters, and beans. Number 2. Fried food. Such dishes tend to contain a lot of so-called bad fats. And once you combine them with caffeine, this mix increases the cholesterol levels in your body. Number 3 may come as a surprise, but still, coffee and milk aren't the best match. Coffee doesn't let the calcium absorb, so technically, you just don't get many nutrients from the milk. Japan seems like the perfect place for those who love coffee. I mean, do you know any other place where you can literally bathe in coffee? Me neither. So this hot springs spa and water amusement park near Tokyo got famous for its extraordinary hot tubs. There are 26 baths in total, and they're filled with coffee, green tea, and many other drinks. Only fresh ingredients are used, and the baths get refilled every day. So to make a coffee tub, they brew coffee beans with water from natural hot springs. By the way, the price is pretty reasonable. An adult ticket costs about $36. If you tried to make a coffee tub yourself, you'd probably spend more. Time to debunk another myth. Decaf coffee does have caffeine. A middle-sized decaf drink has about 7 milligrams of caffeine, while regular coffee has about 7. Yep, 10 times less, but it's enough to disrupt your sleep. As for classic coffee, remember that caffeine has a 6-hour half-life, so it takes about 12 hours to fully eliminate it from your body. Coffee is a no-go both before you go to sleep and right after you wake up. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is not only responsible for stress, but for sleep cycles too. It spikes between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., so a cup of coffee only adds to anxiety in the morning. Grab it when the cortisol is at its lowest. It also spikes between noon and 1 p.m., and between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. No coffee at this time. Many people believe coffee is not the healthiest drink, opting for good quality water or other beverages. Still, if you just can't say no to your guilty pleasure, try buying a thermo cup and brewing coffee at home. You'll save money and nature, since the disposable coffee cups aren't recyclable, and it takes at least 20 years for them to decompose. A pop-in in a coffee shop may be your daily ritual, but have you ever counted how much you spend on your morning habit? Millennials spend over $2,000 a year on coffee, investing sometimes more than they do in their retirement.
A black cat crossing the road, bananas on board a ship, a horseshoe hanging over the door, and other superstitions seem meaningless, but many people still believe in them. All these things make sense if you find out their origin. Let's look at 11 most famous superstitions. A football match, a business project presentation, or a tricky exam is coming. You're afraid of failing and therefore knock on wood. People in Europe and the US have been preserving this ritual for over 2,000 years to avoid trouble. Knocking on wood to prevent disappointment could originate among peasants who knocked on tree trunks to scare away evil spirits who wanted to spoil people's lives. Some people are afraid to walk under a leaning ladder. And if you ask them what the reason for such fear is, they probably won't be able to answer you. The superstition that passing under a ladder can lead to failure appeared about 5,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. The pyramids were triangular because the Egyptians considered this form sacred. A leaning ladder also has a triangle shape, so walking under it felt like a desecration of a sacred symbol. In other cultures, such a ladder meant evil, misfortune, and betrayal. And in the 17th century, in England, guards forced prisoners to pass under ladders. One of the most famous bad signs is a broken mirror. To see yourself in its shards means failure for the next 7 years. Even visually, the reflection in broken glass seems ominous. So many people are afraid to look there. But historically, this fear originated in ancient Greece, where many people came to special mystics who knew how to predict the future using a mirror image. If someone's reflection was distorted, then trouble awaited this person. A broken or cracked mirror also distorted the image, so people were afraid to look there. Then, in the 1st century CE, the Romans added the detail about 7 years of misfortune to the superstition. The inhabitants of the empire believed that human health changed every 7 years, so looking at a distorted reflection meant precisely this period. And the Romans also believed that mirrors reflected particles of our souls. So if you broke a mirror, it meant you were hurting your soul. Spilled salt? Throw a pinch of it over your shoulder right away if you don't want trouble. Why can salt bring trouble and at the same time help avoid it? The answer lies partly in the name. The words salt and salary are similar because both of these things are valuable. In the past, salt was an expensive product. Spilling it on the floor meant throwing money away. Over 3,000 years ago, the ancient Sumerians were the first to throw salt over their shoulders to cancel misfortune. Then, the tradition passed to the Egyptians, Assyrians, and Greeks. In Europe, it was believed that when you threw a pinch of salt over your left shoulder, you blinded an evil spirit who wanted to cause you trouble. Now, salt doesn't seem valuable, so only a few people believe in this superstition. Sailors in the past were in a dangerous position when they went out to sea. No wonder they began to believe in all sorts of superstitions. And one of the most popular ones was related to bananas. Keeping the yellow fruit on board was believed to cause serious problems at sea. This superstition appeared in the 18th century when merchant ships leaving the Caribbean and Spain began to disappear. People who found shipwrecks said that bananas had been floating among the wooden planks. Thus, these fruits became messengers of disaster. Storms, pirates, sea monsters, anything could happen to a ship if bananas were on board. Some anglers are sure that bananas can spoil fishing, and this superstition has a scientific basis. Bananas emit a special gas that may be unpleasant to fish. Perhaps marine life can sense bananas from afar and doesn't want to swim close to them. These days, many sailors believe in the negative energy coming from bananas too. So don't be surprised if you won't be allowed on the boat with this fruit in your hand. Have you ever noticed a horseshoe hanging on the front door of some houses? Of course, many people hang it as a decoration and don't attach importance to its meaning. However, since ancient times, it has been considered an effective talisman for scaring away bad spirits. Also, the horseshoe was a symbol of good luck in many cultures. All these beliefs first appeared in ancient Greece, where iron was considered a material that protected from evil. Also, the Greeks made horseshoes in the crescent moon form because it symbolized fertility and good luck. Then, this belief passed to the Romans, and after that, to Europe. People feared witches, sorcerers, and other mythical creatures in the Middle Ages, so they hung horseshoes in every house. They were sure that witches were afraid of horses, so they would avoid any objects related to these animals. If you want to avoid problems, don't open your umbrella indoors. This is one of the few superstitions that have practical significance. For the first time, people started talking about it in Victorian England. At that time, umbrellas were tougher and more dangerous than now. Iron spokes could injure someone, break something. All these troubles could also provoke quarrels with the people you lived with, so no one opened umbrellas inside. A black cat running across the road is one of the most famous superstitions. Some believe this is an omen of good luck. Others believe that it promises misfortune. The two versions have two different sources. In ancient Egypt, cats were sacred animals, and people revered them. Therefore, it was lucky for an Egyptian to see a black cat crossing their path. In the Middle Ages, these animals frightened people because they believed the black cat was witches' companion and a talisman of dark forces. If a black cat crossed the road, it meant that evil was watching you. When the Pilgrims settled in the New World, this superstition began to spread throughout America, and many people still believe in it. Another animal mentioned in many superstitions is the magpie. This bird is known for stealing jewelry items and coins, so people consider it a harbinger of failure. People say when they see it, "Good morning, Mr. Magpie. How's your lady wife today?" Many believe these words banish failures from them. A magpie chooses one partner for life. So if you see a magpie without a mate, it means it's very lonely. Mentioning its partner may sadden the bird, and it won't play dirty tricks on you. The fear associated with the number 13 is so prevalent worldwide that it even got its own name, triskaidekaphobia. In the modern world, people fear this number because of pop culture. Movies, books, and TV shows say this number is associated with evil, troubles, and dangers. Still, no statistics can prove that 13 is an unlucky number. There have been no accidents related to the number 13. People born on the 13th day feel great and have no health problems. But then, where did we get this fear from? The origins of triskaidekaphobia refer us to Scandinavian mythology. There's one legend about Valhalla where 12 guests were invited to a great feast in Asgard: Odin, Thor, and other famous characters. But then Loki burst into the hall uninvited and became the 13th guest who ruined the party. So 13 became a number that can ruin your life. Why is finding a four-leaf clover considered a harbinger of good luck? The probability of finding this plant is 1 in 10,000, and you must be lucky to find it. But beyond that, the four-leaf clover has an interesting legend about its origin. It says Eve took a four-leaf clover to remember the Garden of Eden when she was expelled from paradise. Thus, the plant has become a symbol of prosperity, good luck, and happiness.
Those stringy bits of banana peel are the one that make bananas smell and taste special. They're called phloem bundles, and they transport all the nutritive elements from the leaves to all the other parts of the plant. They're also edible. The first vegetable ever grown in space is a potato. They managed to grow 5 small potatoes from tubers. If we ever go space traveling, we'll probably need some space French fries. So sad because of the gravity, it's going to taste dull up there, just like any other food. Potatoes, just like watermelons and celery, are pretty liquid. They're 80% water. Technically, you can squeeze some potato juice or a smoothie, but yeah, they taste better when roasted. Since potatoes are packed with water, it can help them absorb and reflect Wi-Fi and radio signals just like humans do. Fancy a potato wave protection shielding? You don't need to actually eat any garlic to taste it. If you rub a clove of garlic on your feet, you'll taste it within 15 minutes. There's no explanation, but it actually works. So maybe it's a placebo effect. Lemons get juicier if you warm them up a little bit in a microwave. The heat softens the frozen membranes so the juice can flow out freely. More lemonade for you. You might have never heard about the Keppel fruit, but it has a superpower of making your sweat smell like violets. It doesn't mean people can now stop taking showers, though. Oranges aren't really orange in the wild. The climate in subtropical regions isn't cold enough to break down the chlorophyll, so the fruit peel stays yellow or greenish. Such oranges usually get treated with ethylene gas that can help turn the oranges, orange. You should drop the cranberries to see if they're tasty. These berries can bounce because of teeny tiny air pockets inside. This air lets them bounce and float. The higher the berries bounce, the better they are. If you prefer some beef over pumpkin seeds, you'll deprive yourself of some protein. In fact, pumpkin seeds and broccoli have more protein per calorie than any meat. Almond is often mistaken as a nut, but in fact it's a fruit that grows on a tree and looks very much like a peach. A nut should be dry, yet almonds have a fleshy layer. You open up that layer and get the seed you eat. Your morning coffee is actually stewed fruit. Coffee beans are a berry pit, so it's basically a drink made of berries. If an onion was grown in a soil poor in sulfur, its taste is going to be soft and you won't shed a tear while cooking. If the soil was rich in sulfur, well, make sure there's a Kleenex box for you. When cutting an onion, rinse the knife with cold water to make your cooking tearless. You can also try chilling the onion. The cells will react slower and you'll cry less. There are 2 types of baby carrots. These can be the veggies picked before they reach maturity or simply trimmed adult carrots. This is just a marketing trick to turn carrots that have no market value into a product that can actually be sold for a higher price. There are no calorie-negative veggies. Some people claim that eating lettuce, kale, and celery requires more energy than it can give. These veggies still have up to 10 calories per stack, which is little, but the digesting requires somewhere around half a calorie. If you ever read a cool fact about the outer part of a cucumber being used as an eraser, don't fall for it. I tried it and it kinda ruined my notebook. Now, when you eat a lollipop, you actually just swallow some flavored saliva. The world's largest lollipop weighs over 7,000 pounds. That would require a lot of saliva. When you buy some grated cheese, get ready for a surprise. If the package says it contains cellulose, it means that cheese does contain wood pulp. Don't worry, it's digestible. It's added to prevent it from clumping. If you grab some wasabi in the supermarket, you probably bought mere horseradish. True wasabi is quite difficult to make, so it's usually replaced with horseradish and some extra flavorings and colorants. So, about 99% of wasabi sold in the US is not the real thing. What's in common between ranch salad dressing and sunscreen? It's titanium dioxide they use to make it white. This dressing isn't originally white, just like Caesar or blue cheese dressing. Farm-raised salmon are actually white, no titanium dioxide involved there. To make them look like their wild brethren that are naturally pink because of abundant shrimps in their diet, farm-raised salmons are artificially dyed. Your favorite fruit candies may be shining because they're covered with carnauba wax. Many fruit, especially apples, have a thin layer of this wax too. Not only can it make candies and fruit appear glossy, but it also makes your car shine and delicious. Peaches and nectarines seem different, but in fact, these are the same fruit. If the fluffiness gene is dominant, we get peaches. If not, we get smooth nectarines. Apples taste better when they're sliced like this because they're exposed to oxygen. It activates a special enzyme responsible for ripening and visible browning. The same happens when you hit an apple. The oxygen gets inside the apple through tiny cracks, and it gets riper on that side. Now, are you into white chocolate? Bad news, it's not even close to real chocolate. It's basically a mixture of sugar, milk, vanilla, and cocoa butter. Cocoa butter isn't enough for chocolate. It should contain chocolate liqueur or powder. On the other hand, limes and lemons are quite different. Lemons float, but limes sink. It's all because limes are denser than lemons. 200 years ago, ketchup was used as a medicine. Doctors used to believe tomatoes had a lot of medicinal properties, and so did ketchup. We still love it, but as a dressing. Chipotle pepper isn't some special type of peppers, it's your good old jalapeno. Dried and smoked jalapeno is chipotle. The only product that never goes off, even if you don't store it in the fridge, is honey. It has low pH and lots of sugar. That's why organisms that can spoil it just can't live in honey. All those bright candies are colored with beetles. Red food dye is made of carmine, which is made with cochineal beetles. Red lipsticks are made with these beetles too. Yeah. Jam and jelly seem basically the same thing, but there's a huge difference between them. Jam is made of fruit, while jelly is made of fruit juice. The expiration date on mineral water isn't about water going bad. Actually, no water can spoil, but the bottle can. Over time, it starts leaking some chemicals that aren't quite safe. Tonic water can be fluorescent in UV black light. It contains quinine, which makes it both bitter and glowing. The color of plates and cups can affect your food perception. A group of 57 volunteers drank hot chocolate out of different cups, but most people claim the orange cup hot chocolate was the best. Red color plates are cool for those on a diet. It looks alarming, so you end up eating less. Crackers are even worse for your teeth than sugar. It's not sugar, but acid that decays the tooth enamel. Sticky crackers produce that acid. It's a good environment for bacteria. They're gonna feast in between your teeth. Strawberries and raspberries technically aren't berries. These guys have their seeds on the outside. A true berry keeps them inside. Grapes, tomatoes, cucumbers, and even bananas. I said bananas were berries, but it's still only partly true. It's actually a berry that grows on herbs. If you want to ripen it fast, just throw it in a plastic bag together with an apple or tomato. These two produce ethylene gas, which helps ripen other fruit. We all know the apples we buy in a supermarket aren't freshly picked. Before they get to the supermarket, they can sleep for 6 to 12 months and stay as good as new. Watermelons can be boys and girls. Yep, this fruit does have genders. Boys are taller and they have more water inside. Girls appear shorter and rounder. They're also sweeter. Allspice isn't a mix of seasonings as you may think. It does smell somewhat like nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves, but it's actually an independent fruit. It's also called Jamaica pepper and is picked from the trees just like cherries. Brown sugar is another marketing trick. Both types have the same origins. Their only difference is that brown sugar contains molasses. Molasses is the dark syrupy byproduct that you get when you extract sugars from beets or canes. How sweet!
Sandwich bread is not entirely real bread. Water can boil and freeze at the same time. Bananas are berries that grow in grass. Believe these or not, but let me ask you, did you know water can be wetter than it is in nature? Find out in this video. Bubblegum is usually pink because the first commercial gum, made in 1928, was like that. Pink simply was the only color of the food dye available at the factory. The first chewing gum ever, though, probably appeared about 9,000 years back. People chewed birch bark tar back then for its medicinal properties, for example, to fight fever. In fact, at different periods, people used to chew on lots of stuff. For instance, the ancient Mayans made gum out of chicle, a substance made from the sapodilla tree sap. They used it to fight hunger and quench thirst. And in North America, people chewed spruce tree resin, a habit which European settlers later picked up and turned into a commercial thing in the 1840s. You can't name a folder CON on any version of Windows. This also applies to some other letter combinations, such as PRN, AUX, NUL, and others. It has to do with the operating system itself. It creates folders to store data in them. And if you create one of your own using one of these names, it will confuse the system. If you shuffle a deck of cards to get every possible combination, you'll spend billions upon billions upon billions of years just to get a third of the way there. Think about it. There are 52 cards in a regular deck. And the possible number of combinations without repeating is 8 times 10 raised to the power of 67. Even if you shuffled the cards 100 times per second without repeating combinations, it will take you several hundreds of trillions of the times the universe has existed so far. Folding a simple sheet of paper 103 times will get you a stack 93 billion light years thick, which is more than the size of the observable universe. But if you decide to check this on your own, you won't be able to fold it more than 12 times. And that would require a really big sheet of paper too, as in almost a mile long. With a regular printing paper sheet, it would be even less, 7 times. In many supermarkets, you'll see two different bread sections, bread and bakery, and they do have different types of bread in them. The lighter, square, and most often cut in advance variety is called white pan bread, or sandwich bread, while the other is, well, just bread. The difference is that sandwich bread is made specifically to have stuff spread on it. It has a tougher texture, which allows the slice to not fall apart and go all crumbly when you put, say, peanut butter on it. It's also soft enough, letting you bite into your sandwich and not squeeze the contents out of the sides, turning your meal into a mighty mess. Finally, white pan bread lasts longer than regular bread because of the additives in it. They preserve the bread's texture for a week or so in your home, allowing you to enjoy your PB&Js for longer, while the traditional bread variety would likely go stale the next day. There's a state at which water can both be boiling and freezing. It's called a triple point, and it occurs when all three states of a substance, liquid, solid, and vapor, exist at all the same time without messing with each other. For water, the triple point happens just a tiny bit over the freezing temperature and at an atmospheric pressure of 0.006 atmospheres. The blue bird you see on the Twitter logo has an official name. It's Larry the Bird. And the creator of the social network named it after the former NBA basketball player Larry Bird from the Boston Celtics. If you've decided to save a few bucks by charging your smartphone less often, let me disappoint you. To charge a cell phone, you use teeny amounts of electricity. That's why the maximum amount of money you can save within a year is less than $1. Jeep is actually an abbreviation. Originally, it was called a GP, or a general purpose vehicle. It was only much later that it became a brand we know today. Bananas have a curved shape because they turn towards the sun. They're also not trees, but grass, by the way. The bunches grow downwards. But the fruit itself wants to get towards the sun, so it curves a bit up while it grows. Spandex, a fiber used for making sports clothing, got its name as an anagram of the word expands. If you were to watch every video on YouTube, you'd have to spend 1,000 years on that. And then about 1,000 times more because of all the new videos that would appear by then. You probably know that tomatoes are technically berries. Well, bananas, peppers, watermelons, and eggplants are too. There's a little open jar symbol on every cosmetics item packaging. It's called PAO, period after opening, and it tells you how long you can safely use the product after opening it. The jar is usually accompanied by a number with the letter M, which stands for months. Just make sure you remember exactly when you open the package so that you'll know when 3, 6, 9, or however many months indicated have passed. A phone jack often has several rings on it, each representing different components. One ring is for mono sound, 2 are for stereo, and the third one means your earphones have a microphone function built in. To know if an egg you boiled is fully cooked, just spin it on the countertop. If the egg spins steadily without immediately falling over, it's done. Instead of using good old water, firefighters extinguish fires with wet water. They add special wetting agents to it, chemicals that reduce the surface tension that regular water has. It helps the substance to soak into objects and spread everywhere much more easily. Your shower curtain sometimes gets a bit too clingy when you get into the shower trying to get clean. According to the shower curtain effect, the hot water lowers the air pressure behind the curtain. The higher, denser pressure outside the shower pushes the curtain in, making you feel like your shower curtain is out to get you. If you take a closer look at the regular garbage bag, you'll probably notice that the seam is inside out. In fact, you're not supposed to shake up the bag to open it. You gotta place the bag over a garbage can like a hat, and then just push the middle of the bag down into the can. This way, the seam will end up where it should be, inside. If you ever had problems with popping chocolates from the box, look at those little holes around them. They're there to help you. If you push a hole right next to the candy, it'll jump out easily. An extra hole at the upper part of the sink has multiple hidden functions. First, in case someone forgets to close the faucet, the water won't overflow and the bathroom won't get flooded. Second, thanks to that hole, the water drains faster, as it gives an escape for the air, helping the water flow down. Many cups and mugs have little grooves on the bottom on purpose. They're designed for washing machines. The grooves let the water flow and not spill all over your feet when you take the cup out. Also, those grooves let the air flow so the cup doesn't crack even if the tea is scalding. Take a closer look at that metal plate at the front of your stapler, known as the anvil. Turn the stapler upside down and rotate the anvil, reversing it. You're basically changing the stapler setting to temporary. In this mode, you can staple the sheets without too much vigor, so they can be easily detached from each other later. You can only cut a diamond using another diamond. It's the hardest natural material on our planet. Between retrieving the stones from the earth and the finished products you see in jewelry stores, a diamond goes through a complex process. Before they cut it, people need to consider which shape is best for the stone, so they don't throw too much of it away. One town in Norway, located north of the Arctic Circle, wants to become the first time-free zone in the world. The sun doesn't go down there at all between May 18th and July 26th. The locals don't want to follow the classic concept of time to get the most out of their 24 hours. Since they have constant daylight, they can't just act like the rest of the world. You can sometimes see people playing soccer in the middle of the night there, or mowing their lawns and painting their houses at 2 a.m. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is tilted because the soil under the building's surface is really soft. This was probably frustrating for the people who constructed it, but they eventually figured out the soft soil is part of the reason why the tower is safer from earthquakes. Because of the softness of the soil and the tower's stiffness and height, the tower doesn't resonate with earthquake vibrations. So the reason the tower is tilted is exactly why it's still standing, even in such an unusual position. You don't actually see pitch black in a pitch black room. It's a specific phenomenon where you see dark light, or as people also refer to it, brain gray. It's a dark gray background many people see in the absence of light, and some even call it visual noise, since it's like an ever-changing field of small black and white dots. Watermelon is definitely one of the most refreshing and hydrating fruits, especially during hot summer days. But if you try some watermelon-flavored candies like gummy or hard candies, they're usually either mouth-puckeringly sour or very, very sweet. They aren't at all like the actual watermelon. It's basically impossible to replicate the great taste in the overly acidic-tasting watermelon candy. That's because its main chemical compounds are rare, and watermelon flavoring uses blends of cheap synthetic artificial flavors. Making high-quality realistic flavoring for candies and juices is possible, but would cost businesses a lot. Some people love the fake watermelon flavor, but most stick to their perception of how that fruity taste should be, and are not fans of it. Why is there an expiration date on a water bottle? Of course, water doesn't go bad, just like salt or sugar. But even though water doesn't go bad, the plastic bottle does. When it starts expiring, it leaches chemicals into the water. It won't make the water toxic, but it can change its taste, so you might not get the mountain spring fresh water you expected. Another reason for the expiration date on bottled water is there's a rule all consumable food products, including water, need to have an expiration date. Also, many companies that produce these bottles use the same machines for bottling sodas and some other beverages, and these do expire. So it's way easier to just put a stamp on all bottles, whether necessary or not, than to buy new special machines just for bottles of water. How come identical twins don't have identical fingerprints? The pattern of ridges on your fingers is unique and stays the same throughout your whole life, which is why fingerprints are a valid feature when it comes to identification. Two people could be sharing identical fingerprints, but the chances here are less than 1 in 64 billion. Identical twins have slightly different fingerprints because the patterns are affected by both environmental factors during prenatal development and genetics. Fingerprints are not just something that's unique to humans. Gorillas and chimpanzees have fine ridges on their fingertips too. They also seem to be unique to individuals, so we all probably inherited this from a common ancestor. Why does a green screen come in green and not some other color? When you film someone in front of a green screen, it's a technique known as chroma keying. The green color gets digitally filtered out so that you can replace it with any footage you want to add. If the subject you're filming is wearing something green, the background image fills that in as well. That's why it gives the impression the person you're filming has holes in them. And green is good for this since it resembles human skin tones the least. Why do you feel dizzy after spinning? There are hairs lining the sides of tiny tubes filled with fluids that are located in your inner ear. When you move your head, these hairs detect acceleration, which means a change in the speed of a certain object. If you spin for long enough, your brain can't deal with the constant turn signals from your ear, and the way it adjusts is to zero them out. At the moment you stop, your ears report zero turning correctly, but your brain is still in the mode where it actively cancels this out. It actually thinks that you have now started spinning in the opposite direction. So, how can ice skaters do all those amazing things on the ice and not feel dizzy? When doing a pirouette, they lock their eyes on a fixed point and keep it that way. They whip their head around really fast when they're not able to twist their neck further. Their spins are really fast, so they gradually train to overcome the feeling of dizziness and learn how to keep their eyes horizontal. That way, the view is spinning around one axis only. Neutron stars aren't that heavy, they're just really dense. So dense that just 1 teaspoon of a neutron star would weigh 1 billion tons. They are the densest and the smallest type of star we know of. Imagine squeezing 1.4 times the mass of our Sun into a sphere no bigger than 6 miles across. They're dense because of the way they form. The balance between an outward pressure process in its core and the gravitational force that tries to contact a star hold it together. When a star loses its supply of fuel, gravity wins, contracts the star, and eventually makes it collapse. When stars between 8 to 20 masses of the Sun collapse, this squeezes their core to be super dense. Their outer layers rebound and bam! Here's a supernova. It leaves behind an extremely dense neutron star. If a star has 20 solar masses or even more, the core doesn't collapse into a neutron star, but into a black hole instead. When you spend a day at the beach playing volleyball, swimming, or doing some other physical activities, you expect to be exhausted. But even when you spend a whole day just chilling around, you'll probably end up just as sleepy. Your body still gets very tired because it's doing a lot, even though you can't see it. First, it's always working to maintain your internal temperature. When it's hot outside, it requires way more effort, and your body cools off in a way it dilates your blood vessels. This boosts blood flow and helps your blood get closer to your skin. Over there, it can offload excess heat. That's also why some people blush when they're hot. You sweat more when it's hot outside, again, to cool down. And your metabolic and heart rate both increase, so you lose a lot of energy even when you're just lounging around at the beach. Why do animals have differently shaped pupils? The pupil is a hole in the iris of your eye that lets light pass through the retina. The iris muscles change the size of the pupil, which affects the amount of light that passes through. Because our muscles are placed in a ring that contracts equally towards the center, our pupils are round. This brings certain benefits. It provides consistent focus over the whole field of view. But circular pupils are unable to constrict as tightly as some other shapes of pupils. Animals that hunt or are prey to bigger animals evolve to have big, sensitive eyes at night. Bright daylight is just overwhelming for them. That's why they have an extra set of muscles that pull the pupil into a narrow slit shape in daily light. Predatory animals have vertical slit pupils, like many snakes and cats. Such pupils help them to have sharper focus across the horizontal field of view and determine better how far their prey actually is. Animals with horizontal slit pupils like sheep and horses don't have sharp focus at the right and left edges, but they have wider peripheral vision. That way, they can spot predators coming after them a lot better. We eat it round the clock. But have you ever asked yourself who invented this dish? I'm talking about sandwiches, of course. One theory claims it was a man named John Montagu, also known as the 4th Earl of Sandwich, who lived sometime in the 1700s. The man didn't like interrupting whatever he was doing so much that he came up with the now famous invention. This way, he didn't need to take a break to have a real meal. One other brilliant culinary invention that you can't probably imagine your lives without is pizza. While most people know where the original one came from, the much debated Hawaiian pizza actually comes from Ontario, Canada. A Greek immigrant by the name of Sam Panopoulos came up with this recipe in 1962. You didn't happen to think the famous Roman emperor used to eat this salad every now and then, hence the name Caesar salad? That's certainly not the case. Once, during the July 4th celebration, an Italian chef named Cesar Cardini ran out of food. Desperate to feed his guests, he ended up putting together whatever ingredients he had and making a salad. Was it a success? Absolutely. Chopsticks are way older than the fork you likely use every day. About 4,500 years older to be precise. It's believed that chopsticks should not be shared between people, even if they were previously washed. Otherwise, you'll be at risk of picking up aspects of the personalities of those who used the chopsticks before. The most versatile fashion item of them all, a pair of jeans, usually has a tiny pocket right in the front. It was designed to keep a pocket watch. This kind of watch may not be in style anymore, but the pocket remains. While we're on this topic of fashion, the pom-pom on the top of a stocking cap actually has a purpose. Once worn by sailors so they wouldn't hit their heads on low ceilings of whatever ships they were in, the pom-pom is said to date back to the Vikings, even though it's hard to picture Ragnar the Great with a pom-pom on his head. The first thing most people do after buying a piece of clothing is cut off the tag situated on the inside of the garment. This tag often makes you feel uncomfortable, sometimes even itchy. And it only has a bunch of symbols written on it, right? Well, those symbols actually provide a lot of useful information that can help you to preserve the garment for as long as possible. For example, you can find washing or ironing instructions there. Make sure to have a look at the tag before you throw your piece of clothing in the washing machine. There's a reason why pens are designed with holes in their caps. Those have a very important purpose. In case a cap gets accidentally swallowed, the hole in its top will stop the cap from blocking the person's airways completely. This will prevent choking. Whether you're allergic to them or not, I bet you don't know peanuts aren't actually nuts. According to their scientific classification, they're actually legumes. Confusingly enough, we recognize almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and cashews as nuts too, but technically, they're seeds. USB cables have now become familiar items in every home. Interestingly, the little USB logo has a story of its own. Though it was up for much debate online, it's most commonly believed to resemble the trident of Neptune, aiming to symbolize universality and versatility. We need salt for seasoning our dinner, for health reasons, and most importantly, for chips and popcorn. But in ancient Rome, salt was so important that it was used as currency. It has been said that for their services, some Roman citizens were paid in salt. Is that how we got the word salary? We also came up with the name buttermilk, but this liquid does not actually contain butter, at least most of the time. If you follow the traditional recipe, buttermilk is what's left behind after you churn butter. Here's an interesting fact about cats you might have never heard about. Cats have only 4 toes on their back paws and 5 toes on their front paws. It's believed this helps them run faster and improve their agility. Formidable. Used for packaging these days, bubble wrap was initially supposed to be wallpaper. 2 engineers who came up with the idea wanted to create a different texture for walls, but the product didn't turn out as popular as they expected. But when the company IBM needed to deliver some fragile computer components, bubble wrap was repurposed, and it became the kind of packaging we've all come to know and love. Popping the bubbles for stress relief is just a nice added bonus. A computer gadget used for all the endless scrolling is called a mouse, and that sounds right, since it's fast, small, and the cord that connects to the computer looks like a tail. But initially, it was called a turtle. That's because of the device's hard exterior that resembles a shell and all those moving parts underneath. While most food items are sold in plastic bags, bread and other fresh pastries in most cases come in brown paper bags. The answer is twofold. since baked goods are supposed to be consumed in a couple of days, tops. Keeping a loaf of bread in a plastic bag can alter its taste and texture. Secondly, paper packaging allows air to flow evenly. This helps to keep the bread fresher in the short term. The reason why the pound cake got its name is because the original recipe asked for a pound of each basic ingredient: butter, flour, sugar, and eggs. This ratio ensured the unique consistency of the cake. It sounds like a lot of food. Well, no wonder. The cake was meant to be eaten over a long period of time. On the topic of packaging, some fruits come in different types of colored mesh. Oranges are sold in a red mesh, while lemons come in green. Well, that's not random. The hue of the mesh is selected to better bring out the color of the fruit, which makes you more likely to buy it. Talk about smart marketing. There's an interesting story behind the regular pencil as well. When you picture a pencil, you most likely imagine it yellow. Well, this color was chosen not by accident. Pencils contain graphite. When they started to be mass-produced in the 20th century, the best type of graphite was in China. And since yellow is the color of Chinese royalty, most pencils were painted this way to show their origin. Have you ever wondered why the candle wick needs to be right in the middle of the candle jar? It's done so to prevent the candle from burning unevenly. If the wick is off-center, you won't get all the use hours out of your candle. It may even stop burning altogether because all that wax dripping over itself. One of the best or worst, depending on how much of a fan you are, things about going to the movies is watching trailers. But have you ever wondered why we call them this way? That's because they were originally displayed after the movie, and these little snippets were trailing feature films. Once projectionists realized that not a lot of people remained in their seats to watch trailers, they started showing them at the beginning of movies, but the name stuck. Erasers often come in different colors. The blue, more rigid part of the eraser is designed for coarser, thicker types of paper, and the pink part is better suited for use on classic notebook paper. We use paper towels for almost everything in the kitchen these days, from wiping surfaces to cleaning fruits and vegetables. But chefs and other people working in the industry swear by using bar mop towels. For starters, they can be reused, which is better for the environment. Plus, you can do almost everything you need with a cotton bar towel. From pulling stuff from the oven, to grabbing hot handles, from chopping fruits, to wiping up all sorts of spills.
So you're watching your favorite cooking show when suddenly, the star chef adds a pinch of salt to some jam that's supposed to go into a dessert. You pick up the phone to call and complain, but right then the chef explains. It turns out that adding salt to fruit is a common thing in different cuisines across the world. Like in Mexico, they like to spice up mango and citrus fruits with salt and chili powder. You can try mango with a shrimp taste in the Philippines and salted watermelon in the southern states. So, how does it work? Well, let's say you're eating a raw mango sprinkled with salt. With the first bite, you notice the salty flavor, and the sweet fruity taste is then slightly delayed. It feels as juicy and amazing as ever. It's most likely because salt affects the sweet taste receptor for sugar, and then really magic happens on a molecular level. One study even found that we have more sugar detectors in our taste cells than scientists previously thought. One of those detectors must direct sugar to a sweet taste cell when it gets in contact with salt. You can try and put salt on any fruit you like, but the effect will be different. Salt can make sweeter fruits like cherries and strawberries even sweeter and balance the flavor of grapefruit, pineapple, and watermelon. Just take a ripe fruit and slice it the regular way and sprinkle the pieces with salt. Large, flaked sea salt might taste more intense, plus it looks more beautiful. After 10 minutes, your gourmet dessert will be ready. So, you need to chop up a heap of iceberg lettuce, but that tough core in the middle doesn't want to leave. Just hold the lettuce head in both hands with the core end down and slam it against a cutting board or some other solid surface, not your brother. Now, you should be able to pull the core right out of the bottom and slice the rest of the lettuce without a problem. The next time you take butter out of the fridge and struggle to spread it because, it's hard as a rock, reach for your grater. With its help, you'll easily flake off tiny pieces of butter that will melt instantly on a warm toast. You can also spread them much easier on cold bread without putting your sandwich in the microwave or waiting for a while to soften the butter. Professional bakers approve of this tip and have been using it for a long time. When you're frying something, you first heat the pan and then put the food on it, right? Well, this logic won't work if you want to make your bacon crispy. On a hot pan, the meat will cook before the fat can melt out of it. Your bacon will be too fatty and rubbery. So you gotta lay the strips on a cold pan and then turn on medium-low heat. The fat will render out of the meat, and the final result will be super yummy and crispy. Have you ever tried boiling pasta in a frying pan? I know it sounds a bit weird, but it can actually help you save a lot of time, water, and energy. Instead of filling a huge pot with water and waiting for it to boil, put your pasta in a frying pan and cover it with cold water and add some salt to it. Your pasta will be cooking while the water is getting to the boiling point, so it'll be ready much faster than normal. And the water that's left in the pan will make an excellent base for a sauce because it's filled with starch. Mix it with pesto, tomato sauce, and garlic butter. It tastes like it's straight out of a gourmet restaurant. Now, the secret to cooking the most delicious and fluffy mashed potatoes is to dry them before you mash them. After boiling, you can either put them in a pot and leave them over low heat on the stovetop, or keep them in a baking sheet in a low oven. Then add melted butter that will coat the starch in the potatoes, and only then slowly add milk. Now your mashed potatoes will have the best possible structure and flavor. If you've shed enough tears over onions when trying to slice them, this one is a must-try for you. Peel the onions, cut them in half, and leave them in a fridge in a bowl of iced water for half an hour before you start cooking. The reason behind your tears is the sulfur that onions take from the soil while growing up. When you damage its cells, the acids contact the enzymes that start a whole bunch of reactions and release a chemical that makes your eyes water. Freezing the onion can weaken that chemical. To minimize it even more, only use a sharp knife to slice onions. This way, you'll do less damage to its cells. It's much easier to peel an avocado if you freeze it first. Just put it in the fridge as it is, give it some time, and then take it out and hold it under warm running water. Now you can peel it easily after you make a couple of crisscross incisions. The best way to keep herbs fresh and juicy is to store them like flowers. If you don't have the right size vase or vase, take a mason jar or a water glass and fill it with an inch of water. Now put the herbs inside as you would do to your roses. For parsley and cilantro, cover the jar with a plastic bag and store the bouquet in the fridge. Basil loves sunlight, so you better leave it uncovered on the counter. If you've made too much sauce or have some leftovers in a can that doesn't seem to be enough for anything, you can save it from the trash can. Pour the sauce into an ice cube tray and keep it in the freezer. Now, if you need to spice up a meal, you can always add a couple of sauce cubes to it. Plus, as a bonus, which is redundant, the sauce will last longer this way than it would in the fridge. Do your meatballs always turn out to be perfectly the same shape and size? Then skip this one. But if you're like me, just use an ice cream scoop to get the right amount of your minced meat mix. Try saying that 5 times. The balls will be the ideal shape and your fingers won't get sticky. The easiest and probably the most beautiful way to slice a mango is to turn it into a hedgehog. Wash the mango under running water. Don't squeeze it while doing it. Now put it straight up on a cutting board and cut it into 3 pieces from the top downwards. Just leave that flat pit in the middle piece. There isn't much you can do with it anyway. Now your mango will have 2 cute cheeks. I mean, its fattest parts. Next, make crosswise and lengthwise cut in the mango cheeks. Leave some even distance between the incisions and don't go all the way through the skin. Now press on the back side of the mango until the flesh pokes out. Does it look like something to you? Yep, a hedgehog. Hence the name of this slicing method. The final step will be to slice off the mango cubes into a bowl. Then eat. Now this one has all the potential to become your new breakfast favorite. You can cook an omelet in a mug. Take a large microwave-safe mug and coat the inside of it with olive oil or spray it with cooking spray. add 2 eggs and 1 tablespoon of milk and mix them with a fork. Now add salt and pepper and any cheese, veggies, and herbs you like. Put it in the microwave on high for 30 seconds. Take it out, stir it with a fork, and then put it back for another 30 seconds. And voila! Your breakfast is served. Oh, be sure to use another mug for your coffee. Otherwise, you get eggs in your coffee, and nobody has a recipe for that. Most hammers have a slot on top of them. This slot fits a nail in just perfectly. Thanks to it, it's much easier to hammer the nail into the wall and avoid hitting your fingers. The extra pocket on the right side of a suit jacket is called the ticket pocket. In the past, they were used to store coins for people on horseback to pay toll booths without having to open their jackets. Then, when train travel became popular, they started to be used to hold tickets and passes. The small bumps on the F and J keys on your keyboard help people find the right keys without looking down. Keyboards come with little legs. Thanks to these legs, you can tilt your keyboard and see which keys you're hitting. But keep in mind that a flat keyboard doesn't make your wrists so tired. And if you can touch type, you don't need to look at the keyboard anyway. Chip bags have excess air inside to cushion the chips during shipping. This air isn't actually oxygen. It would turn the chips rancid fast. Producers use nitrogen instead because it keeps chips fresh. Colored dots on chip bags have a purpose too. Manufacturers need them to control the package color and show what ink color was used on the package. Now, I'm guessing here that they don't actually want to look at the bag. The markings on the bottom of a toothpaste tube are there for the factory robots. Hey, they want clean teeth too. Actually, colorful squares mark the line that helps the machines understand where to cut and fold the tube. Small hollows in a chocolate box are designed for chocolate lovers. Press the closest deepening to the chocolate that you want to grab, and it'll jump out of the box right into your hand. Magic! The hole in the lollipop stick is there to save your life. If the stick gets stuck in someone's mouth, the hole will prevent this person from choking. All Tic Tac containers are designed to dispense just 1 mint every time you open them. There's an indentation in the lid that has the same shape as the candy. Turn the container upside down and gently shake it. When you open it, you'll notice 1 Tic Tac stuck between the lid grooves. Now that's some engineering. Stickers on fruit seem to provide zero information about the product. But if you look closer, you'll find some numbers that can tell you more. A 5-digit number where the first number is 9 is a good sign. You're about to buy an organic product. A 4-digit number starting with a 3 or 4 means it was conventionally farmed. And if the number starts with an 8 and there are 5 digits, it's best to leave it on the shelf. A dollar has its secrets too. A large letter with a rim shows which bank is responsible for issuing this bill. There are 12 Federal Reserve banks in the U.S. distributing currency. For example, the L says it was printed in San Francisco. The digits on an egg are part of a special labeling system. It's used in many countries. The first number indicates the method of production. The following 2-letter code stands for the country where the egg was produced. And then you can find the registration number. It indicates the laying hen establishment. The first number in this code can vary from 0 to 3. 0 means it's an organic egg. 1, it's a free-range egg, which means it was produced by a hen that was allowed to wander outdoors. Hey, come back! 2 stands for an egg produced in a deep litter indoor housing. 3, you're about to buy a caged farming egg. Barcodes speed up the purchasing process. If a barcode consists of 12 digits, the one on the very left is a system identifier. For example, 2 means it's a randomly weighed item. 3 is used for products related to health. The next 5 digits identify the manufacturer, and the following 5 are the product's number. The last one is the check digit. Scanners need it to make sure they've read the code correctly. Colorful plastic tags on bread bags indicate when the product was made. If it's Monday, there will be a blue tag. For Tuesday, it'll be green. Thursday is red, Friday is white, and on Saturday, look for fresh bread with a yellow tag. Hey, there's going to be a quiz at the end of this. If you examine a Heinz packet carefully, you'll notice a number on it. It indicates which filling line the packet was filled on. That's why the product is the same, but the numbers are different. Coffee stirring sticks have holes in them because those help reduce the resistance from your drink. This way, they can stir sugar much more effectively. Such a design also makes these plastic sticks tougher and prevents them from bending in hot water. And since stirring sticks are partially hollow, less plastic is used during their production. Now, why are chopsticks connected? If they're disposable, they should be connected with a wooden clamp. It's to prove that no one used these chopsticks before you. I sure hope not. Bottles have long necks so that your drink stays cool longer. Hold the neck, not the bottle itself, and your drink won't warm up. Soda bottles are always filled in such a way that there's some space between the liquid level and the cap. That's because these drinks contain carbon dioxide. This gas can expand if the bottle gets heated. If there's no air gap in the bottle, it'll break because of the pressure building inside. Also, when you open your drink, the gases go out in the form of bubbles, and the drink is likely to overflow. The gap helps with this problem too. Except if you shake it up first, then open it. Nah, I've never done that. There are strings on a pack of cotton pads so that you can hang it on something. At the bottom of the pack, there's also a perforated line. If you tear along it, it'll be much easier to pull out cotton pads. The hole near the rim of your bathroom sink is there to prevent overflows. Excess water will go into the siphon and your floor will stay dry in case you forgot to shut the water off. Nope, never done that either. That black grate on a microwave isn't just some fancy decoration. It's called a Faraday shield, and it prevents the rays from escaping the microwave. It also speeds up the heating, so you can enjoy yesterday's leftovers faster. Windshield black dots help dispense the sun glaring right into your eyes. This sort of frame keeps the UV rays away, so it serves as sunglasses for your car. Now, don't blame the little lump on your computer cable for getting stuck somewhere for the umpteenth time. This cylinder, shapes and colors may vary, actually helps prevent interference from other signals, like those your phone emits. The stripes on headphone jacks keep the wires insulated from one another. One stripe means the headset had a mono signal. 2 stripes indicate you'll have stereo sound. And 3 strikes means you're out. Wait, that's baseball. 3 stripes means the headset also has a built-in microphone. Blank pages in the books aren't actually made for the author's signature. It's all about the manufacturing process. Books are printed on large sheets, so one sheet can accommodate 4 printed pages. If a book has an odd quantity of printed pages, chances are you'll get a blank one for notes. When the blue bristles on your toothbrush fade, it's time to change it. Oops, I better check mine. You can usually find some silica gel in bags, shoes, and many other things you buy. This gel absorbs excess moisture. Don't throw it away. Every time your shoes get wet, put some packets of silica gel inside them. A button on the back of a collar of a button-down shirt is there to prevent your tie from sticking out. And the small loop on the back of a shirt can be used to hang the thing without wrinkling it. Little buttons on your jeans are called rivets. They were originally placed there to prevent the seams from ripping. In the past, mostly miners and other workers wore jeans. That's why this item of clothing had to be particularly durable. And even though these days jeans aren't under such stress, the tradition of using rivets still remains. In the past, you could only see diamond slits on alpine packs. Their main purpose was to carry ropes. But these days, you can see such slits on almost any backpack. A small piece of fabric that comes with new clothes can help you test the material. Only after that, wash the garment. If you see the fabric fade, stretch, or pill in the wash, at least you won't ruin the entire item. And if you're still here waiting for the bread tag quiz, well, I made that up. You're off the hook. But hey, my friend, I love your commitment. We can always use more of that. Seedless fruits are a commercial success, as no one likes to have to deal with pesky seeds when they're eating. But how does a plant grow if it doesn't have seeds? I'm guessing they have some help. Most seedless fruits that you see in the supermarket aren't natural. Scientists grow them in a lab. They've developed them from plants whose fruits normally contain a large number of big seeds. The scientists start by taking a trimming from a branch and then mix it with a bunch of nutrients. Then they put it into the soil where a new plant grows, minus the seeds. Watermelons are a different story though. Some watermelons are naturally seedless, and we call these tetraploids. When a tetraploid watermelon is crossed with a regular seeded one, it produces a new seedless watermelon. The sky is blue as our air throws blue light from the sun across the sky, which then reaches our eyes. This is because the air is made up of many tiny molecules, mostly nitrogen. When the sunlight hits the nitrogen molecules, it turns into blue light. This blue light gets scattered across the air and bounces around in the sky. That makes the sky look blue to our eyes. Only female bees can sting, as males don't have the right anatomy. They can only sting once because the female honeybee stinger is made up of 2 barbed lances. Once the stinger goes into something, it can't be pulled out. The stinger is attached to the bee's digestive tract, which means that when the bee tries to remove the stinger, its entire digestive system, muscles, and nerves are pulled out. That's why it takes guts to sting. Literally. It seems it would be much easier if planes flew in a straight line. In fact, the circumference of the Earth is much greater at the equator than near the poles. This means that curving toward the poles is a shorter distance than just flying in a straight line. It takes 365¼ days for the Earth to orbit the Sun. Because our calendar years only have 365 days, we add an extra day every 4 years to make up for the difference. This is why we have leap years every 4 years, as they include this extra day. Starfish are able to regrow arms if they detach from the central body. They can even take it one step further and grow an entirely new body from an arm. They can store nutrients they need in the arm until they're able to grow a new mouth. They have enough cells that can turn themselves into different organs and tissue when a limb is severed. Now, wouldn't that be handy? When your phone gets down to 1%, it seems to stay on for longer than expected. This is because your battery percentage is just an estimate, and the phone doesn't actually know how much charge is left. Cactuses, or cacti, can survive in the desert with basically no water thanks to 3 main features. First, they have long roots that go deep inside the soil so they can absorb water. Second, they have spines instead of leaves so that they don't lose water that would evaporate off leaves. Finally, their stems are covered in a thick, waxy layer that keeps water trapped inside them. Still, it's better if you don't hug a cactus. They can get prickly sometimes. Bluetooth works without wires, as it uses radio waves to send information like your radio, TV, and cell phone. Like radio, each device operates on one of many frequency channels. If 2 devices want to link, they pick a channel randomly. If it's already taken, they switch to one of the others. This is why they don't interfere with each other. They're only short-range transmitters though, which explains why your devices won't carry your signals too far. The police lights are red and blue so that drivers can easily see them at any time of day. Red lights are the easiest to spot during the day, and blue lights are the clearest at night. Humans naturally float in the Dead Sea because of the concentration of salt in the water there is very high. That makes the water super dense. It's like molecules that are closely compacted, so nothing can break through. Humans are less dense, physically. That's why we stay on the surface of the water. If you put a cucumber near a cat, it's likely to jump as if it's watching the scariest movie. This is probably down to the cucumber looking a bit like a snake. It turns on an inherent flight reflex that makes the cat bolt. And please just take my word for it and don't scare your kitty with the fruit we all think is a vegetable. Now, this may come as a shock to some, but each dog gives off a unique smell from behind, which passes on vital information to other dogs. They can determine whether they have met each other before just by the smell of their bums. This is why they do it every time they see a fellow pup. It's like an ID card for dogs. We say, hang up the phone, although all we do is click a button because old phones used to have 2 parts, a base and a receiver. To end a call, people used to hang up the receiver onto the base. It's a similar story why we say dial a number. Old phones used to have a rotating dial, which you'd have to turn to call a number. Wow, suddenly I feel old. School buses are yellow, as it was found to be the most visible color. It reduces the risks of accidents and also helps passengers catch the bus. It's also this color, as black lettering on yellow proved to be the easiest to read in semi-darkness and from long distances. People in the UK drive on the left side of the road, not the right. This dates back to the 18th century London, when cars could drive on any side of the road. Traffic jams and collisions started happening a lot, so a law was passed saying that all traffic going over London Bridge must keep to the left. This rule then spread to all parts of the UK. Get equipped for any season with brand new Brightside merch. Click the link and grab your print. Around 85% of people are right-handed. The left side of our brain is the one responsible for planning and execution. Each side of the brain controls actions on the opposite sides of the body, so the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. When you use tools or write, you use the left side of your brain. Is that clear? I'm confused. Birds don't get electrocuted sitting on a power line because they have both feet on the wire and no circuit is created. The electricity travels along the wire instead of through the bird. This only works if the amount of electricity flowing through the wire stays the same. If the voltage in the wire is changing, it's a different story. But birds are so small they can't really store much electrical charge. This means that even if electricity did flow through them, the charge would be way too small to shock them, which also explains why birds, when shopping, prefer to charge than pay cash. The Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans have an invisible barrier that stops them from mixing. The water in them has different densities, chemical makeup, and salt levels. You can see that just by looking at them, as they're each a completely different color. The image on the Save button on your Word document represents a floppy disk. They were a popular way of storing and saving data in the 90s, but now they're mostly forgotten. Boy, I'm really feeling old. Roosters crow in the morning as they have their own internal alarm clock that helps them anticipate sunrise. They need to know when the sun will rise so they can get a head start on their daily chase for food and defend their territory. Roosters also like to doodle on paper, which is where cock-a-doodle-doo came from. Just kidding. Your dog might be eating grass for a reason. It needs roughage like grass in its diet so it can get fiber, which helps digestion. If pups don't have enough, they might not be able to digest food properly. Tractors have big back wheels so that they can pull any weight behind them without tipping. The big wheels also have a large surface area, which helps to stop grass and soil below from being compacted. Dogs don't just wag their tails when they're happy. They use their tails to communicate and express how they're feeling to other animals. It shows a range of emotions, from nervousness to excitement. And the grass is green as it produces a bright pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs blue light and red light, but reflects green light, hence the color of your lawn.
Let's admit it, who hasn't enjoyed leftover pasta when not in the mood to cook something fresh? But most people don't know about the most efficient way to microwave this pasta. It'll heat evenly if you dig a hole in the middle, making the dish look like a large donut. To keep your pastries fresh, cover them with a slice of bread. If you want to keep your cookies in a bag, put some bread inside. This will keep them soft and prevent them from drying. You can use rubber bands to tie plastic bags, or you can cut the top of a plastic bottle. Place it over an open bag this way and just screw the two parts shut. When making yourself a BLT, which stands for bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich, lace the slices of bacon together this way. This way, your sandwich will have proper coverage. The best way to slice bread is upside down, starting on the tougher side. This way, you'll preserve the shape of the loaf. You should also wait until the bread has cooled down to room temperature before cutting it. When you're having drinks outside, cover the glasses or cups with cupcake liners. This will stop all kinds of bugs from getting into the drinks. Try putting ice cream containers in Ziploc bags before storing them in the freezer. If you don't do this, the next day, you'll have problems scooping the product. But inside the plastic bag, your ice cream will remain soft. Instead of opening a bag of popcorn the traditional way, rip a hole in the side of the bag. This way, your hands won't get greasy. Ever dreamed of a perfect sandwich where nothing sticks out and the filling is spread evenly? Here you go. Simply cut round sandwich fillings in half. This way, they'll cover the entire surface of the bread. It's possible to turn the metal plate on your stapler's base. If you rotate it, stapler pins will be bent outward. It'll allow you to staple something only temporarily, and the staples can be easily removed later. Separating pomegranate seeds can be quite challenging, but not if you use this method. First, take a very sharp knife and make 4 to 6 score cuts going from the top to the bottom, cutting through the skin but not the fruit itself. Then, fill a bowl with warm water. Submerge the pomegranate in this water bath. This will prevent the bright red juice from staining your clothes and everything around if any seeds burst. Then, gently crack the pomegranate open along the score lines. Then just pull each section outward. There's a way to hold a burger without it falling apart in your hands. Put your 3 middle fingers on top and your pinky and thumb at the bottom. This will keep all the filling inside. Pulling the trash out of the can or putting inside a new plastic bag may turn out to be very tricky. But by drilling a few holes in the trash can, you can make this task much easier. This way, air can enter the trash can beneath the seal of the plastic bag. It'll make it impossible for the bag to vacuum pack itself into the can. Try eating your cheesy snacks with the help of chopsticks. This way, there won't be any grease on your fingers. If you stash away your garbage bags, fold them into a neat origami triangle. This will save you space. The right way to eat a cupcake is munching on it like you would a sandwich. First, pull the cupcake out of the wrapper. After that, break off the bottom of the pastry and place it on top. This will allow you to enjoy the frosting in every bite. Some boxes of chocolates have little dents in between the holes for candies. If you push such a dent, the chocolate surrounding it will pop out of their compartments. If you need to microwave 2 bowls at the same time, place one of them on top of a cup. When munching on chicken wings, debone them by holding, twisting, and pulling out the 2 bones. After opening a cereal box, some people transfer its entire contents into a separate container. Others fold the plastic and put the bag back in the box, hoping to finish it before the cereal goes stale. But here's another, much better technique. Here you go, as simple as that. When using a blender, fill it with the liquids first. Only after adding your milk, coconut water, or yogurt, put berries inside, fruit, or spinach. When you're crossing out some words, don't just draw lines over them. This won't help if someone wants to figure out what you wrote. Instead, write other letters over the words. Hold your piece of pizza so that it forms a U shape. This will prevent the thing from flopping over. You can usually find some silica gel in bags, shoes, and many other things you buy. This gel is placed there to absorb excess moisture. Don't throw the packages with the gel away. Every time your shoes get wet, place the gel inside. Your shoes will dry much faster than they would otherwise. From now on, you can skip the chip clip. Here's a fast way to keep your snacks fresh. Just make several folds to prevent the bag from opening, like this. Ranger rolling, which means rolling up clothes while packing, can help you save a lot of space in your suitcase. It'll also protect your things from wrinkles and make your bag more organized. Use this method for pants, t-shirts, pajamas, swimsuits, and casual clothes. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for oversized clothes like sweaters. You can use a clothing or tension rod to hang spray bottles inside the bathroom cabinet and save space. The hole in a ruler can be useful if you want to hang the device on a hook. You can also place a pencil tip in this hole if you need to draw a perfect circle. If you need to fill a container with water and it doesn't fit in your sink, a dustpan will come in handy. Just position it in a way that will funnel the water straight into the container below. Instead of slicing a watermelon, try cutting it crosswise. Now you have a convenient way of eating a watermelon stick, and the juice won't make a mess all around. By using ice cubes for your iced coffee, you dilute your drink, and it loses its flavor. Try coffee cubes instead. They're very easy to prepare. Pour some coffee into the ice cube tray and freeze it. Apparently, there's even a correct way to eat chips. Nah, it's not as simple as popping them into your mouth. If we talk about such chips as Pringles, try placing them on your tongue with the concave side down. It's usually more flavorful than the other. Another trick: slide a long piece of paper into the can and then carefully pull it out. Here's your makeshift Pringles tray. A staple will effortlessly keep your keyring open while you tack on new keys. Most kitchen shears have metal plier-like teeth in the middle between the handle grips. They can help you crack nuts, crab shells, and other tough products. You can also open jars and bottles or remove herb stems with their help. The easiest way to eat mangoes is by cutting them into cubes. This way, you don't even need to peel the fruit. To untie a knot really fast, twist the loose end as much as you can and push it through the knot. The best way to peel a banana is by starting from the bottom, where the black spot is. This makes the whole experience much neater. No more squished bananas and annoying strings. Sometimes you need to get away from your computer, but don't want to keep logging back in. Put your mouse over the top of an analog watch. The mouse will perceive the ticking second hand's movement, and this will prevent your computer screen from turning black. Try breaking in your shoes by putting them on while wearing thick socks, and then blow drying the tight areas. Activated bamboo charcoal can help you remove unpleasant odors and bacteria. Put it in a mesh bag and leave it in the room you need to freshen up. No more costly air purifiers. You can keep your cold meals cold and your food fresh by making a DIY ice pack. Take a sponge and fill it with water, then put it in a plastic bag and leave it in the freezer. Once the sponge is frozen, it'll stay this way for a long time. Keep in mind that you should use a watertight bag and a fresh sponge. You can reuse your old curtain rings by placing them on a hanger. Then put your scarves or anything else that will fit through them. This will help you save space and make it easier for you to look through the things in your wardrobe.
Hey, there's no need to go for exclusive sports drinks. Cherry juice will take care of you after the training. It's a great thing to reduce muscle soreness after the workout. That usually starts a day or two after the training, and on the third day, it feels like you can barely move. Cherry juice is full of minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants. Antioxidants are elements that protect our body cells against free radicals, molecules that rob electrons from our cells, damaging them. Tart cherry juice is also high in anthocyanins, especially if you compare it to other cherry juices. That's why it tastes sour, and it's responsible for the vibrant red color cherries have. This component is important because of its anti-inflammatory features. Inflammation we feel in our muscles after a workout signals to our body that it should start the repair process. It's where tart cherry juice can help recover your muscles faster and prevent strength loss. You can take it both before and after the workout. Stay hydrated, especially if you've done some pretty intense workout where you sweat a lot. When you restock your fluid levels, you automatically bring strength back to your body, improve muscle flexibility, and reduce soreness. Hydrating to get your muscles to grow and recover makes sense. After all, our body is up to 70% water. Besides tart cherry juice, you can go for simple water, black and green tea, coconut water, chocolate milk, or some sports drink low in sugars. These kinds of drinks have electrolytes, which are elements that will relieve your muscles. Sounds obvious, but yep, diet is essential. Don't skip meals, even if you want to lose weight, because this way you can lose muscles. It works the opposite way. You should eat proper meals to build up muscles and speed up your metabolism. Protein-rich foods are the ones you need for building and recovering muscles, so opt for meat, dairy products, eggs, nuts, and legumes. Aside from bigger meals, choose good post-workout snacks too that don't contain too many calories. Contrast therapy is another post-workout thing to do. It's a piece of cake. No, you don't eat it. First, you shower with pretty cold water, then you switch to rather hot, and then repeat several times. Researchers show this type of therapy relieves sore muscles and gets your body back on track better than other recovery methods. A foam roller is a tool for self-massage. One research proved that athletes who were using a foam roller for their hamstrings after sets and reps of powerlifting had fewer issues with muscle soreness than those who didn't. It stimulates blood flow to specific areas you massage with the roller, which eventually helps bring important nutrients to the muscle tissue. You can do foam rolling before the workout too, when you want to warm up your muscles a little bit. But it's a great thing to choose when you're cooling down after you've done with the training. Slowly roll over those muscles you feel are tight, and if you notice some tender spots, hold them for 20 to 30 seconds before moving to the next one. Active recovery, also known as performing workouts at a lower intensity where you don't have to sweat much, is an option too. It can be yoga, jogging, walking, or swimming, nothing too hard. Although it seems like you should stay inactive for a while to give your muscles a chance to rest, staying active is a key. It keeps blood flowing, which helps your body recover from intense exercises, and at the same time, you don't put a heavy strain on the joints and muscles. It also helps your muscles stay flexible, reduces soreness, and eliminate toxins from your body. Plus, you'll feel awesome staying active on your off days too, but on lower intensity. Hey, cleaning your apartment is a sort of low-intensity workout too. So, put up your favorite jam and get going. A standing desk will contribute a lot to your regular workouts. Since you've already started working out, don't allow yourself to be lazy for the rest of your day. If you sit too much during the day or at work, consider a standing desk to fix your posture. Try to do fun things like handstands. Yeah, you first. Sure, you'll have to do it against the wall initially and it won't be perfect, but you'll be able to track your progress over time and test your strength and mobility. Shower and change your clothes after you're done to avoid germs. Our body has this oily protective layer called sebum. When combined with dead skin cells, it can clog your hair follicles, so don't chill too much in your sweaty workout clothes. Get ready for the training well to avoid injuries and prepare your body for intense physical activities. When warming your body up, first focus on bigger muscle groups, like, for example, hamstrings. Start at a low and slow pace, gradually increasing dynamic and going faster and more intense. You can start with 5 minutes of low-intensity activity like jogging on the spot, walking, cycling, or doing cardio exercises like jumping jacks. In Sweden, these are called jumping jacks. After doing this, your body should feel warm, energized, joints more mobile, and you're ready for the workout. Don't forget about a good stretch. It usually comes after the workout rather than at the beginning because your body is already warm, which is why you want to cool it down now, plus the range of motion is bigger. It's tempting to skip it, especially if you're running out of time after a long workout. Still, stretching reduces tensions in your muscles and increases flexibility. You can track your range of motion in a way to move your joints in a normal direction and see where you stop, and then compare it with a position where you'll stop after a month of doing stretching regularly. Stretching also prepares your muscles for the next workout session, whether it's coming the next day or in a couple of days. Go with 10 minutes of stretching for every hour of a workout, and then try to target most of the muscle groups you've used during the training. Stretch each of them for 20 to 30 seconds, and be careful if it doesn't feel right for you. Slow down, maybe you're going too far. For a hamstring stretch, sit on the floor, extend your right leg in front of you, keep it straight. Bend the left leg so that your left foot is touching your right knee. Now, bend forward and try to reach your toes with your right hand to stretch the hamstring. If you can't, hold your shin instead. Try to go a little bit further every time you do this exercise and lean your entire torso forward, not just your shoulders. Do the same with the left leg too. For a glute stretch, you should be on the floor. Bend your right leg and keep the left foot flat on the ground. Cross the right leg over the left thigh and hold the position. Pull both legs toward the upper part of your body. Keep it like that, and after 30 seconds, do the same on the opposite side. For a groin stretch, sit on the floor and let the soles of your feet touch. Hold your toes and lean your torso forward, bending from the hips. For a low back stretch, lie on your back, bend the knees, and hug your shins. Slowly pull your knees closer to your chest to feel your lower back stretching. For an ab stretch, you need to lie on your stomach. Hands are underneath the shoulders. Push the upper body off the floor and keep the pelvis on the ground. This one hits the front stomach area. Also, get some good sleep. Cats spend around 2/3 of their lives sleeping. Sounds tempting, but we don't need that much, so on average, we spend only 1/3. When we don't sleep enough, our body doesn't have time to recover. Normally, you're supposed to fall asleep in 10 to 15 minutes. If you're really sleep deprived, it will take you less than 5 minutes. Try not to do intense workouts before going to bed, because it may keep you awake, while doing exercises regularly helps you get better, high-quality sleep. And that's the news on how to snooze. From our Fruit That Bites Back department, bromelain is a powerful protein-digesting enzyme made to break down protein cells. It's mostly concentrated in the core of the pineapple or close to it. This stuff is even used as a meat tenderizer these days. But once you've swallowed that mouthful of pineapple, your stomach's acid will break down the bromelain fast. If the burning sensation is too much for you, then there's a way to get rid of it. Cooking alters the enzymes in any food, so sticking your pineapple on the grill will stop it from hurting you altogether. The tissue in our mouth heals faster than any other part of our body, thanks to the increased blood flow to our face as well. In other news, donkey milk makes the world's rarest and most expensive cheese. To create Pyule cheese, the donkeys have to be hand-milked 3 times a day. It takes over 6 gallons of milk to produce just 2 pounds of crumbly white cheese. It costs about $600 a pound. This cheese is remarkably high in protein, calcium, and omega-3, and it's an excellent alternative for people with cow's milk intolerance. But $600 a pound? The admittance rate for Harvard is 4.7% of applicants out of 100. Walmart is a bit harder, and only 2.6%. When things get hot, they move quickly, while the opposite applies to cold. If any atoms stop vibrating, they're at absolute zero. A freezing cold 459.67 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Kelvin. It's almost impossible to get to this temperature though. Not even space is that cold. It holds an average temperature of 2.7 Kelvin or about minus 455 degrees Fahrenheit. A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance, or a regiment, or even a colony. A flamboyance matches those birds the best, huh? Hey, I like pink. Creating giant flocks of thousands, they fly to water bodies all over the world. They have to stick to different food in different places, so their colors change quite a bit, depending on whether they eat algae, shrimps, or insects. Humans and emperor penguins are the only warm-blooded animals to stay in Antarctica during winter. We can wear coats though. The penguins are stuck in formal wear. Emperor penguins form large huddles. To share body warmth and provide protection, they form a huddle that's constantly moving. This way, any of them can get a turn in the middle. Clouds look white because they're reflecting sunlight off the water droplets. When they're thin, a large portion of the light passes through, making the cloud appear white. As the amount of water increases, so does the thickness. We see this as gray. The coque de mer, or sea coconut, produces the world's largest and heaviest seeds. A single seed can be 12 inches long, 3 feet around, and weigh over 40 pounds. Rabbits may be cute and cuddly, but in Brisbane, Australia, it's illegal to keep one as a pet. You can keep them only for approved purposes, such as public entertainment, like a magician. The Kármán line is the general international consensus for the start of space. It's at 62 miles, or 328,000 feet above sea level. The human brain is made up of 60% fat. This makes it the fattiest organ in the human body. Gray matter makes up about 40% of the brain's weight and contains 100 billion signal-transmitting neurons. Moving on, in Utah's Fish Lake National Forest lies the pando. It's better known as the trembling giant, Over 47,000 quaking aspen trees share the same root system. They've been there for so long that they are estimated to be close to 1,000,000 years old. A margherita pizza has tomato, mozzarella, and basil on top to represent the colors of the Italian national flag. A delicious random fact. Ever sneezed because of a cat? Pets can be allergic to humans too, because cells shedding from our skin and hair, though it's rare. Also, it might be because of the smells we cover ourselves in every day, like deodorants and perfumes. The world's largest sandcastle, measuring 57 feet 11 inches high, was created in Germany on June 5, 2019 by Sculptura Projects. It took 3.5 weeks and a staff of 20 to make the sandcastle out of 11,000 tons of sand and water. Antarctica's largest native land animal is a wingless midgefly called Belchica antarctica, at only half an inch long. Now wait. Every other animal in Antarctica is considered a marine animal. Seals and penguins spend most of their time in the ocean looking for food. Antarctica is also the only place on Earth where there are no native ants. General Sherman is the world's largest tree. Located in California, the giant sequoia is over 2,000 years old and is taller than the Statue of Liberty. There's a city called Boring in Oregon that has sister cities called Dull in Scotland and Bland in New South Wales, Australia. Polar bear fur isn't white at all. It's transparent and hollow, and their skin is black. Their coat camouflages so well that it can sometimes pass as a snowdrift or snow dune in Arctic environments. A thick layer of body fat keeps them warm while swimming, and a double-layered coat keeps them warm from the cold air. Now, it's always drawn and shown this way, but our sun isn't yellow, orange, or even red. It's a mixture of all the colors together. If we could look at it, it would appear white. The core of our sun reaches an estimated 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. But we've made it hotter on Earth. Researchers at Sandia National Laboratories produced in their lab scorching hot 3.6 billion degrees Fahrenheit with some superheated gas. Back in 1930, there was a day without news. On April 18th, the BBC radio station in London reported there was no news at the 8:45 p.m. time slot. For the rest of the 15-minute segment, they played some relaxing piano music. I think we should bring that back sometimes, don't you? Humans seem to be the only animals who really get a kick out of eating spicy food. Sure, there are benefits from eating the chilies themselves, like antioxidants, faster metabolism, and vitamin C. But we can get all that from other vegetables. There doesn't seem to be any real reason to put ourselves through those hot peppers. Get equipped for any season with brand new Brightside merch. Click the link and grab your print. The majority of bananas consumed around the world are from the Cavendish hybrid. They've got no seeds and are able to reproduce with the aid of farmers. The farmers remove and transplant part of the stem, helping to keep our favorite yellow fruit going. This makes nearly every single one of these bananas genetically identical. Hot water will freeze quicker than cold water. It's called the Mpemba effect. If you put an open container with hot water into a freezer, the water will keep evaporating from steam. Less water means less to freeze. When you eat carrots, your skin could turn orange. Carrots are packed with beta-carotene, a natural orange pigment. Too much of this pigment can change how you look a bit, especially in body areas with thicker skin, like your palms, soles, knees, and elbows. The ocean is blue because water absorbs the majority of red colors in the light spectrum, so there are only all the shades of blue left for us to see. Still, under certain conditions, it can change colors completely. It might turn green, brown, red, pink, and orange as light bounces off the particles in the water or sunrises and sunsets. The majority of the ocean is entirely dark. Hardly any light can penetrate the depths of the oceans. Now, if a zombie invasion ever happens, don't worry. There's a special center in the US with a real website with checklists of necessary items, blogs, a graphic novel to show you how serious it is, and even a poster to show you're ready. And if the zombie turns up with a pineapple, then you're in real trouble. The largest desert in the world isn't the Sahara. It's covered with snow. The Antarctic Polar Desert covers the continent of Antarctica and is the size of about 5.5 million square miles. That's 1.5 times the size of the United States. A desert isn't measured by temperature or sand. It's defined as a place that receives less than 10 inches of rainfall each year. A giraffe's neck is about 6 feet long, while a human's neck is just 4 inches on average. But we share one thing in common. We both have only 7 bones in our necks. The major difference is their bones are about 10 inches long. In 2015, the University of South Australia created a bike that stretched for over 155 feet. The bike had to be wider than average to stop it from tipping over because of the length. But a brave group of cyclists did manage to ride the bike nearly 330 feet. It's not an oversized tongue that sticks out of a clamshell. That's their foot they're using to move around. It's also quite strong, giving them the ability to dig deep down into the sand and mud for protection. There's a fruit in Central and South America named black sapote. It tastes and looks like chocolate pudding. Ooh, let's try that. The longest game of cricket lasted over 12 days between England and South Africa in 1939. It ended without a winner because the English team had to catch their boat home. The first trailer in a movie theater was shown in 1912, but for a Broadway show, not a movie. The trailers were originally played after the movie because they trailed it. Eventually, they started appearing at the beginning, as viewers would instantly leave the theater once the movie had finished. Hey, it's over. Bye-bye. No, really, I'm done. Bye.
You've never ever eaten a single bite of a real cinnamon roll in your entire life. All your fancy Italian dinners with your friends were a scam. And get this, most likely, you've never tried a legit milkshake. Feels like your entire life is a lie, right? Don't worry, I've got you covered. I'll expose all those lies to you. Watch until the end to know how supermarkets sell you a fake Caesar salad and why the only authentic thing you've ever eaten was that seemingly packed with colorant red velvet cake. Do you like mashed peas? I don't. I still have those flashbacks to when my mom made me eat this swamp-like slurry when I was a kid. But I love peanut butter. Well, these two are related. The thing is, peanuts are actually legumes, not nuts. Why do they even call it peanut butter if it doesn't contain real nuts? And is not a dairy product to be considered butter? No one knows for sure, but I guess it's just because of the texture that resembles other nut-based spreadable pastes. The main component of the Caesar salad is probably its dressing. It has a bunch of ingredients, such as olive oil, eggs, lemon juice, Worcestershire sauce. By the way, 3 hardest things to say out there are I love you, I apologize, and Worcestershire sauce. Sorry, I got carried away. I was just saying that supermarket Caesar salad is a scam, since lots of stores and even restaurants throw in mayo and other unexpected ingredients. Source? Trust me, bro. Farm-raised salmon usually looks as white as the Twilight protagonist, but don't sparkle. It's the skin of the salmon, Bella. I'm a salmon. Ahem. Sorry, let's carry on. Well, people normally trust neither vampires nor pale salmon. To give the trustworthy reddish-pink look to those fish, sneaky fish farmers add pigmenting compounds to salmon feed, which helps mimic the color of wild salmon. In the wild, salmon get that iconic hue from shrimp and algae, but their farm-raised peers sometimes get a boost from carotenoids added to their feed. Many fancy pestos at supermarkets are labeled alla Genovese to show they come from Genoa and have old-school Italian nonna recipes. But sometimes, manufacturers may throw in a bit of extra stuff to make their pesto thicker. Okay, I may understand the extra sugar in this sauce, but bamboo fibers? I mean, I love pandas, but I'm not a panda. Some time ago, American journalists hit up 25 sushi spots in NYC and LA to see if we were really getting the sushi we paid for. They visited those big shot celeb hangouts and local joints and collected samples. Ordered sushi and then sent them off to a lab for some DNA testing. If that was a TV show, the results would sound like, "You are not the father." The thing is, 68% of the samples were not what they claimed to be. It was often a cheaper fish. In NYC, white tuna usually turned out to be escolar, also known as the X-lax fish because instead of a nice aftertaste in your mouth, it can create a number 2 emergency. This fish is banned in Japan and Italy, but totally legal in the US. Things are even worse with wasabi. 95% of wasabi served in sushi restaurants is a knockoff. Yep, instead of fancy traditional Japanese stuff, you've been fed a cheap mix of horseradish, mustard flour, cornstarch, and green food coloring. Restaurants swear it's all about volatile compounds the real wasabi paste has that breaks down within minutes, but I have a bad feeling they just want to optimize costs as much as they can. If the apples you buy in supermarkets were kids, at the age they're sold, they'd be able to walk. While some produce like spinach is super fresh, apples often spend a long time in cold storage before hitting the shelves. In the US, apples are usually harvested between August and September. They're picked slightly unripe, treated with chemicals, waxed, boxed, and then stored in cold warehouses for up to 12 months. In the US, the average supermarket apple is 14 months old, while in other countries, let's say Australia, they're slightly younger and are only around 10 months old. Red velvet cake color is all about chemistry. Cocoa powder has an antioxidant known as anthocyanin, which is sensitive to pH levels. It can react to both acids and bases. Buttermilk and vinegar, which are also part of the recipe, are acidic, so due to this simple reaction, the whole mixture gets a dark red hue. The resulting cake has more of a reddish-brown shade though, rather than bright red. The only problem is that it's difficult to replicate the natural reddish-brown color since most brands use an alkalizing agent to neutralize acidity during processing. And to get that color, cocoa powder must be raw. You see what I'm driving at, right? Those cakes you grab at your favorite coffee shop are packed with artificial food coloring. Stop calling these orange and yellow prepackaged slices cheese. Not only is it an insult to camembert, cheddar, and other cheese varieties, but it's also incorrect in terms of legal regulations. Even the FDA refuses to classify this product as real cheese. It contains less than 50% of actual cheese, with the remaining ingredients being fillers and additives. I guess those slices deserve their cheese product name. Many commercial blueberry products don't actually have any blueberries in them. Instead, they're full of sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavors. Even big brands like Kellogg's and General Mills were guilty of that. But still, there are many real deals. Just make sure to check the ingredients list for the real blueberries, and remember, the best ingredient that can be put in a blueberry pie is your teeth. Let's normalize purple carrots, shall we? They used to be the norm. It wasn't until Dutch growers started some vegetable experiments that we ended up with the sweet orange carrots we all know today. The Dutch were on a mission to create a carrot that showcased their national colors, like orange for the House of Orange. Their carrot breeding efforts paid off, and soon the orange carrot was all the rage, pushing aside purple and yellow varieties. That canned pumpkin you grab every year isn't really pumpkin, or at least not always. Most of the time what you're getting is actually squash. The FDA doesn't care to differentiate between pumpkin and squash on food labels, so companies go for the tastier and more compact squash instead. The US has rules for grading and processing milk products to keep them safe to drink and prevent sickness. States can change the rules a bit, so you might see raw milk for sale in California, but never in Florida or Illinois. So, your favorite milkshake might not actually be a legal milkshake if it has too much or too little milk fat. Here's why McDonald's sells not milkshakes, but just shakes, as they're made of a soft-serve ice cream mix. There's this shocking truth about Dairy Queen. Despite serving the iconic Blizzard, they technically don't sell ice cream. The FDA's regulations require a certain amount of milk fat for a product to be classified as ice cream. Dairy Queen's soft serve falls short, only containing 5% butterfat, so they embrace the term soft serve for its frozen treats. Your cinnamon rolls are a lie. They don't have any real cinnamon in them. Many commercial cinnamon rolls use a less expensive variety of cinnamon called cassia, which is closely related to true cinnamon species. Portobello mushrooms are not a unique type of mushroom, but rather mature cremini mushrooms that have been allowed to grow bigger in size. So here, we've only got the age difference. The belief that churros are Mexican is yet another food misconception. The origin of churros is still a mystery, with varying claims as to who invented the popular pastry. While some believe it was Spanish shepherds, Portuguese sailors, or Chinese individuals, there is no definitive proof to confirm any group as the original inventors. Some truffle oils out there actually have real truffles in them, but most of those you see in stores use this synthetic stuff with a complicated name instead. It basically mimics the taste and smell of real truffles, so companies can make truffle oil without breaking the bank.
It's the first day of the apocalypse. The internet collapsed, logistics chains broke down. Outside your house, the world is living and breathing chaos. You need to think fast. You gotta make sure your provisions will last until who knows. First off, make sure to stockpile your share of pemmican. It's like a beef jerky with a lot of extra nutritional value. Pemmican is an invention of the indigenous people of North America. They depended on pemmican during harsh winters or when resources were scarce. It lasts long and it's easy to carry, the essence of survival food. It doesn't look the yummiest, but it can last up to 5 years if stored properly. This pemmican stuff is kind of perfect for the apocalypse, since it will give you a highly nutritional meal. A 2.2-ounce bar will give you around 300 calories, but here you get 3 for the serving of 1: dried meat, berries, and even sugar. And you won't have to eat a lot to feel satiated, since it gives your body an array of nutrients, from proteins to carbohydrates. I know you'll miss them, but don't grab those chocolate chip cookies you love. You need an alternative called ship's biscuits, but you can't find them in the supermarket. You gotta bake them yourself. These were literally the cookies that sailors ate during long voyages at sea. A ship's biscuit can go a lifetime without going bad. There are records of biscuits that lasted over 80 years. The deal is that when sailors went to sea, they didn't know exactly when they would set foot on land again, so they needed to be ready food-wise, or else they could, starve. Bakers came up with this simple recipe. These cookies are mostly made out of salt, flour, and a bit of water. But the secret here is that the slow baking method takes all the moisture out of it. The little holes on top help to get the moisture out during the cooking process. A medium-sized person can survive on 8 ship's biscuits a day. But there was a downside. These cookies were so dry that one might break their teeth while eating them. And extra attention is advised since there could be bugs hidden in the holes on top. So, before munching on those cookies, make sure to shake the pests out of them. Ever heard of a soup you can carry around? Well, portable soup is an ancient secret that needs to make this list. Portable soup is hard and condensed. It's a type of solidified broth, like a bouillon, made essentially of meat. You need to cook it slowly, with any type of meat high on collagen. While cooking the meat, it will release its taste in the water in the pot. After about 18 to 24 hours of reduction, you'll get a gelatin-like nutritional substance. When this cools down, it turns into a plaque that you can cut down into smaller tablets. To eat it, you just need to find some hot water and put the meat tablet inside of it. It would release all the condensed nutrients in it, giving you a warm, hearty, and highly nutritional meal. If you attempt to risk your life and go outside to buy provisions, don't forget white rice. This variety of rice can maintain its nutrient content and flavor for up to 30 years. White rice is better than other varieties, such as brown rice, because of their natural oils. Now, let's say it's been a year into the apocalypse. You've gotten used to your new lifestyle at this point. You go outside to hunt for some fresh meat, but you run into a bear. But since your nutrition is up to date, you have all the energy you need to escape it, and you can thank kamut for that. This ancient grain contains up to 40% more protein than modern wheat, and it's richer in zinc, magnesium, selenium, and healthy fatty acids. It's not called high-energy grain for a random reason. It's easy to digest and provides more energy than regular wheat. Quick thought here. While we're speaking about survival food, we're not just thinking about things to fill your stomach. We need to think in nutritional terms as well as psychological ones, which means Jell-O. It may sound superficial, but don't underestimate the need for comfort food during the end of the world. Since it's made out of an industrialized powder, it lasts for a pretty long time. Plus, it's a source of collagen. This will help your bones to remain sturdy. Make sure your pantry has salt and sugar. Salt has been used since humans discovered it helps to preserve the shelf life of meat and stuff. That's why Egyptians used it in their mummification processes, so it would slow down the decaying process. Now, sugar can be stored for an indefinite period of time. Make sure to get a top-quality refined sugar, though, and store it somewhere without any type of strong smell since it absorbs the scents around it. Both sugar and salt keep bacteria and mold from growing. Now keep in mind, moisture is one of your #1 enemies in the apocalypse, even worse than zombies perhaps, simply because moisture allows for bacteria and mold to prosper, and these guys end up eating all your food. 2 years into this whole chaos, you figured out your way around food. When it all started, you bought a bunch of fresh veggies and dehydrated them. By dehydrating food, you still get all the nutrients, but they last for much longer. Plus, they reduce in size quite significantly, which makes storing them much easier. You didn't forget about peanut butter, of course. Peanut butter is highly caloric, plus they are your best treat at this point. Now I know what you're thinking, I can go without candies, but how will I survive without milk? Well, you don't have to. Instead of regular milk, make sure you get tons of powdered milk. You can even vary a bit and buy powdered coconut or even almond milk. To prepare them, you just need to mix it with a bit of water. And of course, coffee is a big survival food. It lasts a long time, although it won't bring you much nutrition. Coffee does have its share of antioxidants, which will help with a longer life. Plus, it helps with your brain's health, preventing dementia. You should get your share of canned food – beans, vegetables, even fish. Make sure you get some black beans, as they're high in iron. You need to have a sturdy immune system since there won't be many doctors around, or they've turned into zombies. Canned pink salmon is a must-have in your apocalypse pantry. It's got a bunch of those omega-3 fatty acids, which will help with your brain and your heart health. It can last up to 6 years if stored correctly. And you gotta think about oats here. Oats are one of the world's healthiest foods. A bowl of oatmeal for breakfast can help you feel full longer, which is a great ally when food is being rationed. Rolled oats are simple to make and can be eaten without cooking, simply by letting them sit in water overnight. Now, corn. Flint corn is one of the best for long-term storage. It makes a pretty good cornmeal. You can even grind it and make a mean tortilla, in case you start to miss those Mexican night outs. It's best to store it whole and grind it only when you cook it, for durability, of course. Now, unfortunately, popcorn has more moisture than other varieties of corn and is not the best candidate for long-term storage. Let's just say popcorn doesn't make it into the apocalypse. Which leads us to another point. None of this will work if you don't know how to store your survival food. You need to create a storage location that is cool, dark, and dry. This can extend the shelf life of your food for up to 30 years. For the dehydrated stuff, you need to store it in airtight containers. Air is kind of a bad guy here, since it helps to oxidize a bunch of stuff. Most bacteria in our food need air in order to thrive, so if we cut out the air, this means more food for us.
Picture this. It's a cloudy, misty morning in the middle of winter. Tom wakes up, a bit nervous for the day ahead. He's leaving on a long journey through uncharted waters. His captain says they will try to leave England and make it all the way to the Americas. He's ready and packed to leave his house when his wife reminds him to take the biscuits he had spent the night preparing. Let's zoom in on these biscuits right here. They look a bit strange, don't they? These are called ship's biscuits, and they were literally the biscuits that sailors ate during long voyages at sea. A ship's biscuit could go years without going bad. I know that sounds impossible, but the secret is in the ingredients and baking methods. When sailors departed, they didn't know how long they would go without setting foot on land again, so they needed to be ready, food-wise. Otherwise, they could perish from extreme hunger. So bakers came up with this simple biscuit. It's mostly made out of 3 ingredients: salt, flour, and a bit of water. The idea is that the dough stayed as stiff as it could. Then, bakers would put them in the oven for hours, at very low temperatures. The purpose of this slow baking was to take off all the moisture in the biscuits. Even if you're not an experienced sailor, you might suspect that moisture is the enemy of food preservation. It makes stuff get moldy and attracts insects and other animals. Plus, a ship is already an extremely moist environment. So the biscuits had to go on the countercurrent of all of that? A ship's biscuit can go 6, 7, 8 years without going bad. The little holes you see on them help to get the moisture out during the cooking process. A sailor like Tom, medium-sized, would get a portion of 6 to 8 ship's biscuits per day. They were extremely nutritious and satiated a person's hunger. Now, this was a type of survival food. It wasn't meant to be super pleasurable, yummy, or even give you all the nutrients you needed. Just the basics. Now, do you have any idea what life was like in the 18th century? If you think about a city like New York, there were only about 18,000 people living there. For comparison, today the city hosts more than 8 million people. Back then, if someone had to travel from New York to Boston, there wouldn't be any of the convenience stores there were along the way. I mean, there weren't even roads as we know them now. So, people needed to make food provisions. And this is where portable soup came in handy. If you imagined a boiling pot of meat and veggies, I'm sorry to inform you, you are wrong. Portable soup is hard and condensed. It looks like this. Portable soup is a type of solidified broth, a very, very condensed substance made essentially of meat. Think about it. It's convenient, it's light, it doesn't take up much space, but it's extremely hard to make. The best meat to make portable soup is one with a lot of collagen, like beef shank, and the secret is slow cooking. You can't lose sight of it though, because if it boils up, you ruin the whole thing. While cooking the meat, it will release its taste in the water in the pot, and after a few hours, it's safe to take the beef out. The remaining water will be rich in nutrients and fats, and once you reduce that down for about 18 to 24 hours, you'll get a gelatine-like nutritional substance. Once this cools down, it turns into a tablet of sorts. It's pretty amazing to witness the entire transformation process, but hey, this dark tablet is really satiable. And to eat it, you just needed to find some hot water and put the meat tablet inside of it. It would release all the condensed nutrients in it, giving you a warm, hearty meal. Here's a trick question for you. Do you know why hamburgers are called hamburgers if they are not made out of ham? Apparently, it has to do with the city they were first invented in, the city of Hamburg in Germany. But it wasn't what we are used to today. I mean, they didn't even use ketchup. Well, at least not the tomato ketchup we use now. But did you know that other types of ketchup have existed throughout history? As weird as it may sound, back in the 18th century, people ate mushroom ketchup. For your information, if you look up ketchup in some dictionaries, it is by definition a sauce made out of mushrooms. It has nothing to do with tomatoes. I wonder where people got that idea from. Anyways, to make it you can use any type of mushrooms. Even shiitake if you're feeling fancy. The idea is to smash them, cook them, and add a bunch of spices to the mix. I'm talking clove, nutmeg, ginger, pepper, and whatever else your palate wishes for. And in case you're wondering what our ancestors ate it with, I have one word for you: meat. They would pour mushroom ketchup over a nice piece of steak, for example, like a gravy sauce or something like it. Now, if this just left your mouth full of water, I have good news. You can still find mushroom ketchup in Great Britain. It's just North America that kind of forgot it. Neat, huh? And what did people eat back in the day when they were feeling unwell? Today, we have a concept of food I particularly love: comfort food, which is something to eat when you are feeling down and sad. But then, on the days you're feeling sick, what do you eat? I immediately think of a warm soup or something nutritious and light. Our forefathers drank something called posset. Now, posset could be described as an eggnog with some sweets added into it. Its recipe can be traced down to as early as the 15th century. The drink was considered such a reliable remedy that Shakespeare even used it as a poison in Macbeth. Here's another quick pop quiz for you. Why do we say the proof is in the pudding? This famous expression simply means that you'll only know the true value of something once you experience it for yourself. The expression started to be used back in the 1600s, but there's an important thing to note here. In Britain, pudding is not the sweet dessert known by many in America. Rather, it's a savory dish, much like a pie. I guess it's safe to say that the British are good at turning almost anything into pie. from apple pie to pumpkin pie, chicken pot pie, and so on. Now, in the 18th century, they had something called beefsteak pie. This was an incredibly popular dish back then, but somewhere along the way we lost the habit of making it. Sure, you can find steak and kidney pudding today, but it's got all sorts of stuff in it, such as potatoes, carrots, and thick gravy. Up until the 19th century, people ate the stripped-down version of this dish, which was basically made out of richly flavored meat. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. If you're in the US, you might eat some avocado on toast or a rich bowl of cereal. If you're in Vietnam, you might enjoy a warm bowl of broth soup or rice. But if you were eating breakfast in 18th century England, or even the United States, you would get something like this. This is the old school version of what we know as bacon and eggs. Except that back then, it was called collops and eggs. According to the traditional Hannah Glass recipe, straight from the most famous cookbooks of back then, the egg wasn't fried or boiled. It was poached, and the bacon was probably not as processed as we eat them today. A little toast was added on the side, and there you had it. The perfect start for a long day.
Are you ready for a spicy adventure? Let's talk cinnamon. It's a cool spice that most of us sprinkle on our oatmeal, toast, and apple pies. But did you know that some sneaky sellers out there are trying to sell us fake cinnamon? So, how can you spot the imposter? Well, the real deal is called Siouxland cinnamon, while the fake stuff is usually cassia cinnamon. One way to tell is by looking at the cinnamon sticks themselves. Real cinnamon is lighter in color and has a thinner, more delicate bark. The fake stuff, on the other hand, is darker and thicker. But don't worry, you don't have to be a cinnamon connoisseur to enjoy the real deal. Just make sure to read the label and look for Siouxland cinnamon. Your taste buds will thank you. Is white chocolate real or just an imposter? Well, it's time to settle this sweet debate once and for all. Some people say it's not even chocolate because it doesn't contain cocoa solids. But let's not judge a book by its cover or chocolate by its color, right? Technically, white chocolate is made from cocoa butter, milk, and sugar, which makes it a distant cousin to the darker cocoa solid packed chocolate varieties. But hey, if you ask me, family is family, even if they don't look or taste the same. And don't let anyone tell you white chocolate isn't delicious, because it absolutely is. Its smooth, creamy texture and sweet, buttery flavor make it a delightful treat on its own, or in baked goods like cookies and cakes. So, whether you consider white chocolate to be real chocolate or not, let's just agree that it's a yummy indulgence that we can all enjoy. Are French fries truly French? Hold on to your potatoes because it turns out that the origins of this snack are a bit more complicated than you might think. While it's true that French cuisine has given us some of the world's most delicious dishes, including escargot and coq au vin, the origins of French fries are actually traced back to Belgium. That's right, our crispy little friends were first cooked up in the land of waffles and chocolate. But here's where things get even more interesting. The reason they're called French fries is actually because of the way they're prepared, not because of their country of origin. You see, the term French in this context refers to the technique of slicing the potatoes into long, thin strips known as julienne cut. This technique was popularized in France in the 18th century, which is how the name French fries came to be. Want to add some egg rolls to this order? I mean, sure, they're delicious and all, but what's with all the fuss around this dish? First of all, let's talk about the egg part. Despite their name, egg rolls don't contain any eggs. Instead, the egg part comes from the thin, crepe-like wrapper that's made with eggs. It's like a little egg blanket that keeps all the tasty ingredients snuggled up inside. But what about the filling, you ask? Well, that's where things get interesting. Egg rolls can be filled with just about anything your heart desires. Veggies, meat, seafood, you name it. Some people even like to throw in a little cheese or rice for good measure. Now, here's where it gets a little weird. there's a bit of a debate in the egg roll world about whether they should be fried or baked. I say go for the fried version. There's just something about that crispy golden brown shell that can't be beaten. You might need to sit down for this one. Strawberries aren't berries, but bananas are. Mind blown yet? Here's the deal. A berry is defined as a fleshy fruit produced from a single type of cell. And guess what? Bananas fit the bill perfectly. They might not be as juicy as a watermelon or as tart as a raspberry, but they're berries. We might call them koala bears, but we couldn't be more wrong. Koalas aren't bears. These cute and cuddly critters are marsupials, which means they carry their little ones in a pouch. And while they may look a little bit like teddy bears, they aren't related to them. But hey, we can't blame people for thinking koalas are bears. After all, they do have that fluffy fur and round ears that make them look like they're ready for a hug. But koalas are their own unique species. They have all these amazing features that make them special, like their eucalyptus diet and their ability to sleep for up to 22 hours a day. Seriously, how do they do that? In case you didn't know the history of the Boston cream pie, you're in for a surprise. First off, let's just get one thing straight. Boston cream pie is not a pie. I know, it's in the name, but trust me on this one. It's a delicious cake filled with creamy custard and topped with a luscious chocolate glaze. Now, you might be thinking, why is it called a Boston cream pie then? Well, legend has it that it was invented by a chef at the Parker House Hotel in Boston way back in 1856. The chef, who apparently had a sense of humor, decided to call it a pie just to mess with people. And, well, the name just stuck. But let's not forget about the real star of this dessert, the custard filling. Smooth, creamy, and just the right amount of sweetness. It's what makes this cake stand out. And that chocolate glaze on top, it's like the icing on the cake. Literally. Is a peanut a nut? It sounds like a silly question, but you'd be surprised how many people get confused about this. So let's clear it up once and for all. Peanuts are legumes. That's right, they're in the same family as beans and lentils. But don't worry, we won't hold it against them. After all, they're still delicious and nutritious snacks. But here's where it gets really interesting. Even though peanuts aren't technically nuts, they can still cause nut allergies. That's because they contain similar proteins to tree nuts, like almonds and walnuts. So if you have a nut allergy, you'll want to be careful around peanuts too. Have you ever found yourself using the term tinfoil to refer to aluminum foil? You're not alone. A lot of people use the two interchangeably. But why is that? Years ago, aluminum foil was made of tin. Back in the late 1800s, before aluminum was cheap and abundant, people used tinfoil to wrap up their food and keep it fresh. But when aluminum foil came along, it quickly became the more popular choice because it was cheaper and easier to produce. So how come we still call it tinfoil? Some think it's because aluminum foil was first marketed as tinfoil and the name just stuck with most people. Others think it's because the two materials have similar properties, so people started using the two terms interchangeably. But whatever the reason, one thing is for sure. Tinfoil just sounds cooler than aluminum foil. You might be surprised to know that your trusty Pyrex dishes aren't Pyrex at all. Now, don't get me wrong, the knockoff still gets the job done, but it's just not the same. Be sure to check the label on your glassware before you go around thinking you're buying good stuff. Here's a cheat sheet to help you figure out what kind of container you have in your cupboard. If you see Pyrex with a lowercase p on a dish, that means it's not safe for the oven or microwave. It's most likely made of soda lime glass. Stick to using these containers for food storage. On the other hand, if you see Pyrex in all caps, you're in luck. This cookware is made of a special type of glass and can be heated in the oven or microwave. Just don't pop it under the broiler. Things could get messy. And if you're taking your Pyrex from the fridge to the oven, be sure to let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes to avoid any glass fractures. From the iconic golden fries to a broken ice cream machine, here are 10 fast food secrets that the fast food industry doesn't really want you to know. Chicken nuggets. Those golden crispy bites you can get from fast food chains. They're even on the menu of school lunches. What if I tell you that they aren't actually made entirely out of chicken? Researchers took chicken nugget samples from unnamed fast food chains and analyzed them. They said that one sample, for instance, contained only 40% and another 50% of meat. The rest? Well, you're eating mouthfuls of things like fat, connective tissue, and bone spicules. Many fast food companies grind the meat with that stuff. They make mechanically formed orbs of chicken parts. Why? Perhaps it's because this method is cheaper and more profitable. Millions of restaurants worldwide have chicken nuggets on their menu. So, scientifically, it's not fair to say all nuggets are made this way, but a lot of studies imply so. The more the meat is processed, the more you lose the good stuff, like vitamin B6 and B12. The bitter truth is that companies add stuff, such as sodium, to the mixed paste. Sodium is added to get a better flavor. It's one of the ingredients that makes nuggets so yummy. Our bodies need sodium, but not too much of it. Unfortunately, most junk food contains more than our bodies can handle. So it might be a safe option to avoid eating these sorts of foods frequently. Chains dip their nuggets into tempura batter and fry them in hydrogenated oil. That's also not a green light regarding health, but this is how they catch the golden tint. They put additional stuff in nuggets. What about grilled chicken? In recent years, we've seen brands highlighting grilled chicken as a healthier option. Research has been done about grilled chicken too. And the same approach is applied here. Take chicken samples from iconic fast food companies and send those to labs for analysis. The results show that companies are misleading people by advertising these products by labeling them as healthy, natural, and 100% chicken breast. In reality, a couple of things are added to the meat to make it tender and juicy. Plus, these additives make it easier to cook the meat, freeze and transport it, and reheat it later without losing too much moisture. The drawback of all these additives is that they affect the nutritional value of the chicken breast. These ingredients aren't the healthiest for us. We should especially watch out for 3 things. The first one is again sodium. Fast food samples had 7 to 10 times more sodium than home-cooked chicken breast. Imagine you have a cheeseburger, but you say no to yourself and try to pick a less harmful menu item. Yet, some chicken sandwiches have the same amount or even more sodium than a cheeseburger with medium fries. The second thing you need to watch out for is phosphate additives. These additives allow the protein to conjoin more water. This means the white meat in the sandwich will appear juicier to you. Any word you see in the ingredients section that contains phos is a phosphate additive, so it's best to avoid them. The last thing you should avoid is sugars and starches, not just in grilled chicken, but pretty much in all fast food products. Oh, that's hard to digest, I admit. Cornstarch, sugar, malt, they come with grilled chicken breast. Buns and even some fries have sugar too. Everywhere I look, it's sugar. You see, home-cooked chicken has 0 grams of carbs, but the study samples had added sugar and up to 10% of the calories in the chicken breast comes from there. So what's the moral of this story? If you're a health-conscious diner, you should maybe go for other options. There are secret recipes from companies like KFC and Coca-Cola. No company wants to share the ingredients that make their food irresistible, but with a little research, you can decipher many things. You want to know the secret of McDonald's fries? It's written on their website. They add beef flavoring to the frying oil. This may sound weird, but apparently, that's a known practice amongst chefs and restaurants. Duck fat has also been used as a flavor, for example, in high-end restaurants. I'm a fries lover, so I added another fact about fries. Sadly, they're even saltier than you think. Experts suggest that a grown-up should consume at most 2,300 milligrams of sodium daily. Guess the McD's large fries sodium number. At least 400 milligrams. Classic fries from Burger King have 732 milligrams, and Five Guys take the level even higher with 962 milligrams of sodium. Next time, maybe you can ask workers to go easy on the salt as a solution. Picture this. You're in a hurry, but your tummy says, Feed me, or I'll affect your mood and make life miserable for you. For a quick snack, you enter a fast food chain restaurant. You order your favorite burger. It looks and smells as if it's just been taken from the grill and served. Nope. They have different types of grills designed for this that can cook meat super quickly. Sorry to bear the bad news, but those perfect grill marks on your burger aren't real tools. The factory adds them. If you want to know how clean an eatery is, look under the ice chute of the soda machine in places where you can get your own drink. There you go, Inspector. You solved the case. Various studies say that if such machines aren't cleaned correctly, dirty, contaminated ice can lead to some health problems. There could be mold or bacteria there. Ew. The process of cleaning ice machines isn't easy. The same thing applies to ice cream machines too. Rumor has it that those ice cream machines aren't out of order. Employers just cannot find time to clean them properly. Now, what's the best time to get a good and fresh meal? Here are two opinions, and they both have solid reasonings. The first team recommends avoiding ordering grilled food in chains from 7 to after midnight. Many former employees say that sometimes they had taquitos or hot dogs prepared at around 4 or 5 a.m., but kept waiting to serve them till around midnight. That's not healthy. The other team says you should order between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. or between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. to get the freshest meal. Since it's going to be around lunch and dinner time, there'll be circulation and you can get decent food. Fast food companies have marketing, design, and psychological tricks to lure you in and make you order. Yet, they don't want you to stay inside for too long. If you were dining in mood lighting, you know under dim lamps and candlelight, you would take your time to eat. As the name suggests, you should be fast like your food in chain restaurants. They have fluorescents and they're in full light. Similarly, the floors and tables have reflective surfaces that make food look nice and bright. Plus, music is usually fast and loud. It's done to prevent you from spending hours there. Yet, they want you to take advantage of the first 20 minutes after your purchase. The faster you eat, the longer it will take you to feel full. Scientists say it takes about 20 minutes for our stomachs to inform our brain, okay, now I'm full. It's a good idea to eat in a clean area, but most of these companies are using cleaning products that have super strong chemicals. Assume that the staff cleaned the place at the end of their shift. They wiped down the soda machine and grill surface, and then you showed up early the next day. You may get some of that chemical residue on your food compared to other customers visiting the place later in the day. The vegan patty may not be 100% vegan. I'm talking about the grill, not the meat itself. In most of the chains, vegan burgers are cooked on the same grill as meat burgers. Do you have fast food chain secrets you want to share? Tell them to fellow Brightsiders in the comments. Is this safe to eat? We sometimes see strange dots on our potatoes and wonder if we should just throw them away. Here are 10 eat or toss facts. Did you know that every year 119 billion pounds of food is wasted only in the United States? To put it in perspective, this number means nearly 40% of all food in America is wasted. People throw away food if they don't have confidence in the ingredients. They're being cautious, and it makes sense. But what if the food is safe to eat and only looks weird? The first item on the list is beef. When it comes to meat, people naturally get extra cautious. Imagine you buy some raw beef in the store. Later on, you realize it's got some brown spots. If you toss it immediately, hear me out. This is normal. In fact, you can see brown layers also inside the beef. Bright red color equals fresh meat, huh? Not necessarily. When the meat is first cut, it's maroon. If the meat is quickly vacuum packaged, it will keep that shade. But if the meat is exposed to air for like 15 minutes, then oxygen will cause a change in the look to red. The redness can turn brown when the biochemical reaction starts. This can take a few hours. Workers at the grocery stores grind the meat several times a day to achieve that bright red color because they know consumers are cautious about maroon-looking beef. If the beef is wrapped in an oxygen-permeable plastic, it turns bright red after exposure to oxygen. As long as the meat smells and feels fresh, and if it's been stored properly, it should be safe to eat. Have you ever come across dark lines under a shrimp shell? This one has a similar story to beef. Black lines on your shrimp's flesh are related to a natural phenomenon. They gradually occur after shrimps are taken from the water. Meat is exposed to oxygen, and the blackness gets more visible over time. Here also, the pattern of the animal itself can be a factor. These black lines can be a naturally occurring discoloration on the shrimp. Think of cats. They also have different color patterns, but they're the same in terms of species. Next time, you can conduct a mini experiment in your kitchen. Put a couple of shrimp side by side and observe the mild differences in the shrimp's color patterns. Shrimp will have a distinct bad odor when it's no longer edible, so if it smells and tastes fresh, don't toss it. Should you eat moldy yogurt? That green substance on the surface doesn't look appealing at all. But if you scoop it out, you seem to have clean yogurt underneath. The short answer is toss it. The mold could be seen on the top only, but it has probably gone deep. Not to mention that it'll taste bad. Many molds are harmless, but some produce toxic substances. Green mold is a type of penicillium. Does this word sound familiar? That's the same type of mold used in the antibiotic penicillin. Don't get too excited. Eating moldy yogurt won't magically cure bacterial infections. It only spoils your dairy products. In 2013, there was an outbreak related to one line of yogurts. The company handed the products to stores as usual. After some time, they received customer complaints. They said that the yogurt looked like yogurt soup and tasted really old. Turns out that a type of fungus probably released some carbon dioxide. It made the product fizzy and bloating. Ugh. The company and another independent scientist both said that this fungus in question wasn't usually harmful to people. Yet, more than 200 people reported becoming affected by it. So, these sorts of things can still happen. You should trust your spidey sense. If you've ever been lucky enough to see some mold in a freshly opened package, reach out to the manufacturer. You'll potentially save others from facing the same scenery by notifying the company about a systemic issue and preventing potential future product waste. Plus, the company probably wants to make amends and either reimburse your sad yogurt with a happy one, or better, they'll give you coupons for free products. Why do avocados sometimes have brown dots inside? Technically, it's edible, but you might not want to eat it. Avocados are a source of many vitamins like C, E, K, and B6, as well as healthy stuff like magnesium, potassium, and more. The avocado works hard to become such a health storage. Nutrients, water, and sugars wander around this fruit. Yes, technically, avocado is classified as a fruit. Anyway, avocados have their own transport channels, like veins. These channels are normally invisible to us. Until something goes out of the ordinary, the avocado may be stored in too cold temperatures for a longer time than it should. As a result, the tissue cells might be weakened and start to deteriorate. Experts say that after the fruit is harvested, if it stays in the refrigerator for a few weeks before you buy it, vascular browning can occur. This phenomenon becomes visible after you keep the avocado at room temperature for a few days. Don't be hard on yourself, it's not because of you. So, should you eat it or toss it? You can eat the brown dotted avocados, but you may want to taste them first. They might not taste good compared to a regular one. What about the white area under the potato peel? Eat or toss? This area is also like dark bruise marks, but it's not black. If the outer layer of the potato looks normal, that odd-looking white knot is not mold. The moldy potatoes deteriorate. They'll get softer, wrinkled, or squishy. As long as the exterior of this potato appears clean and regular, there's probably no harmful microbial growth inside of it. These strikingly white areas can be shaped due to potatoes being bruised, possibly in the field during the harvesting period. To sum up, you can eat it. There's also an issue of white smears coming out when we slice potatoes. You see the marks on the cutting board? Experts say that some potatoes have a higher level of water and starch content. As a result, your cutting board gets a bit messier than usual. No need to worry about it. I'm gonna carry on with another form of potato. Not because I love every version of potato and I can eat it in all meals from breakfast to dinner, but because I want to know, what are those brown spots on potato chips? Should we eat or toss them? Consider these as minor imperfections. They don't affect the safety of the chip. They're there again because of the bruises they get or as a result of frying. Sometimes you see that your garlic is trying to make more garlic out of itself. Yep, it has sprouted. The question is it okay to eat sprouted cloves, or should you toss them? If the green sprout is in the center of the garlic clove, that's fine. Be aware that the taste of the garlic will be stronger than it usually is. It will still be perfectly okay in a cooked meal, since it'll be alongside other ingredients. The taste shouldn't be that harsh. Can we eat an apple with worms? Most people can't even stand the idea of accidentally eating an apple with a worm, but that's a cultural thing. So the answer is yes, we can eat it. After all, worms add a little protein to the fruit. These animals don't carry any harmful parasites. They make their way into the apple. The entrance point of the fruit might have an off flavor since it got sort of rotten in time. Besides the taste, the rotten part is all safe to bite. What might not be so safe is eating the fallen apples though. Those have probably been hanging out on the ground for quite some time. This period might be enough for the harmful bacteria from the soil to sneak into the apple. There were some cases where people experienced health issues by drinking unpasteurized apple juice made from dropped apples. Yeah, the ones that interact with unhealthy bacteria.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.